Everyone, Joe Axman here, the astrologer, formerly known as Mediocre. Man, he's okay. What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. In this video, I want to go over Chiron in all the houses. And this is a pretty ambitious video. It took me a few days to prepare for. And so how I have it laid out, we're doing all 12 houses, four four charts for each house. And I also have the Wikipedia pages pulled up in advance so that I can relate the relevant Chiron placement to the person's life. It's a lot because I can't remember everything about every person, but some are more obvious than others, but some do require some contextualization to make it more obvious to see how Chiron works in the chart. Now about Chiron and my interpretation of Chiron, if you go anywhere, anywhere in astrological circles, all you hear about is wounds and healing, and oh my gosh, the wounds, and there's so much wounds with Chiron. It's the most wounded place, and you need healing. And that's just, I don't find that accurate at all. Like honestly, like yeah, that can happen sometimes. There can be a lot of fear with Chiron placements, fear of rejection. It makes you unique. It makes you different. And because of that, people like to, will hide their Chiron. If it's badly aspected, yes, it can indicate some, something that's, if it's related to the face, maybe a deformity, physical deformity, or mental, unusual qualities and things like that. Like, but those are bad aspects, right? And you're going to get qualities with bad aspects to any planet, especially the outer planets that are unfavorable. But it certainly doesn't represent the most wounded part of the body. I mean, Pluto and Uranus can definitely relate to that. Perhaps even, Neptune, that's really badly aspected as well. Um, Mars and Saturn are often the most malefic planets, causing harm. Um, Chiron just shows where we're extremely unique. And the reason why that is because Chiron is extremely unique itself. That's what it is. If you look at the physical characteristics of Chiron, it defies definition, basically. It's not a comet, it's not an asteroid, it's not a minor planet, but it has qualities of all of these things. So really, they can't classify it. So it's the unclassified. It's just, it is what it is. It's Chiron, right? It's something that's just completely unique that does not belong to any other grouping, right? Its orbit is also unique. It orbits between Saturn and Uranus, right? Back and forth. So it has a Saturnian Uranian quality. Now, if you want to ask me, where does that belong as far as rulership? Aquarius. Some people have related it to Virgo because the wounds and the healing. Oh my gosh, so much wounds and so much healing. Just no. It's just not. Like it can show up that way, like especially if there's a lot of rejection, right? Chiron can relate to rejection, but like that's because of its weirdness. It's weird. It's strange. It's the weird kid. And yeah, the weird kid's gonna get picked on and bullied. Does not automatically means, but like weirdness can mean like, the one of a kind, like a diamond in the rough or something like that, where it's like just so unique that it stands on its own and becomes like a shining star because of its nobody can be like it. Nobody, right? One of a kind, completely. Um, yeah, but I do associate it with Aquarius because it has a similar vibration. It's traveling both between Saturn and Uranus. It's kind of the bridge between the structure and the freedom of Uranus, the structure of Saturn and the freedom of Uranus. But it's still its own unique thing. It's much smaller than both Saturn and Uranus. So it's not like them, but it does draw qualities of both of them, right? So yeah, it's that place where, and also it really does pick up on a lot of Saturnian and Uranian vibes. Saturn, because there's fear involved with Chiron, fear and limitation because of being so different that the people will hold themselves back, right? That's the limitation that comes with Chiron. People are afraid to let their Chiron shine, right? So they hold themselves back. They're constantly being self-protective. And then that kind of perpetuates a cycle of rejection, like we're because the person's rejecting themselves, right? They're rejecting themselves, then then other people reject them too because it's like confirmation, right? Like, the vibration they put out will be like please reject me. I'm not, like, don't look at me, don't hire me, don't, I'm not good enough, things like that. But once that chironic um maturity happens, where it can extend itself to Uranus, then it changes to the other side, where there's like this immense freedom in uniqueness. It's like, let your freak flag fly. I am me. There's nobody else but me, or there's nobody else like me. And I'm unique, I'm individual, and there will never ever be anything else again like me. And I'm here and I'm different, you know, love it, because that's, it's a wonderful thing. And that's the Uranian side of Chiron. And we see this again and again and again, where people who have overcome that Saturnian fear and have really embraced their Chiron, and they're just one of a kind, unique people that we'll never see again anywhere ever in life, right? But yeah, like, the best way to understand this is through looking at many, many charts. So that's why I do it. It's like 48 charts. Like, who else is going to do 48 charts? Not many people on a video. But the reason is because it's like Chat GPT. What they found with artificial intelligence is that the more data points that they feed into the artificial intelligence, the more intelligent it gets. And that's the same with anything. It's like the more experience you get with something, the more data points you have about something, the more you can understand it in its totality. So that's why I'm not just doing like 2 charts, right? We need to look at a lot of charts to really understand how these planets work. Not just Chiron, all of them, right? Everything. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to have to go back and forth between the astrology and the Wikipedia. So forgive me for that, but that's just the way it goes. So first we have Selena Gomez, Chiron in the first house, Venus, Mercury. Mercury is excellent in the first house, although it's retrograde. That's not great. But this just, incidentally, this Venus is in its own bounds, and it's the MC ruler in Venus's bounds. So it's very strong, this Venus, and indicates very strong career. But conjunct Chiron indicates something very unusual about who she is. Who is Selena Gomez? Like, she's a very unusual type of person, right? Like, and let's just read about her for a second. So she's an American singer, songwriter, actress, producer, and businesswoman. Okay, Chiron, right? She began her career as a child actress, starting in Barney and Friends. Gomez rose to prominence and emerged as a teen idol for her leading blah 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 Disney Channel. Blah, blah. As a recording artist, she signed Hollywood Records and formed the pop rock band Selena Gomez and the Scene, where she served as lead vocalist. 3 studio albums, 7 singles, gold certification, so music. Then she pursued a career as a soloist, solo studio albums, each having debuted at the U.S. Billboard 200. I'd never heard a single one of her songs, so I don't know anything about that. But a lot of music, more music, did really well. Music. She forayed into Spanish language music with the extended play Revelación, which earned her first Grammy and Latin Grammy. Various collaborative singles, okay, and more music. She starred in numerous films. Mavis, Hotel Transylvania, 13 Reasons Why, okay, many other films, bunch of films, awards, right? She's worked with various charitable organizations and advocates for mental health, gender, racial, LGBT equality. She has been a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. She launched a cosmetics company, Rare Beauty. It's valued at $2 billion. She founded Rare Impact Fund, a nonprofit, raising $100 million. She was featured in listicles such as the Time 100, Forbes. Okay, so all these accolades, and she is the most followed woman on Instagram as of 2024. Like, ridiculous accomplishments, like, and all over the place. That's Chiron, right? You can't put her in a box. You cannot define Selena Gomez. You can't just be like, well, she's this, right? In a narrow confines. She's everything, right? She's whatever the fuck she wants to be. She's going to be all over the place, and she's going to be successful at everything, because, I mean, it's just that's her fate. It's, the Venus, Leo, right? In Venus's own bounds. Like, this is just very strong. And there's probably a bunch of other stuff here too. But yeah, and then Chiron just makes it just so unique that she's just out of the box. She's doing her own thing. She's not a wounded healer. I defy who's gonna call her a wounded healer? It's like right on her ascendant, conjunctor Venus, which is her MC Lord. No, she cared maybe the healing part, sure, but what happened to the wounded part, right? How wounded is she? Like everyone has, issues and stuff, but you can't just pin everything be like, well, somebody has a problem, that's Chiron, right? This doesn't work that way. There's all sorts of problems that could be, non-chironic related, So the wounded healer thing, which brings me to another point. Just because something is named Chiron and it has a mythology attached to it, don't take that so seriously. That doesn't Astrology doesn't actually work that way. Yeah, there might be indications of something of the thematic indications by the mythology, but it's not one to one. People just look to the mythology and they're like, Chiron is everything to do with the mythology and nothing else, and that's wrong and it's stupid. And it's dumb and it's not astrology. It's bullshit. It's bullshittery, is what it is. So there's a lot wrong with astrology, right? And hopefully I can point to some of those things. Incidentally, I'm looking at the midpoint between the angles here, and you'll notice that it's the exact same degree down to the arc minute on all sides. Like this is the midpoint between the ascendant and and IC, but the same degree is this between the MC and the ascendant. But I use that as a reference point. If something is hitting on it like really tightly, it's going to resonate between those two angles very strongly. The ascendant and IC, or ascendant and MC, right? If she had a planet here, or even 19, 13 at any degree, it's still going to resonate with the angles, and it's still going to have a prominent factor. This is something that I just added on my own, but it feels very right to me. So anyway, I'm using that now. So yeah, let's move on. Got a lot to cover, and next we're going to did I put her in here? I'll just open it up. Whitney Houston. It is in there. I just, for whatever reason, didn't see. Whitney Houston, Chiron. Okay, and then so like check it out, the bounds. Venus in Pisces. So Pisces, Venus bounds. Venus is exalted in Pisces. That's her ascendant lord. So that's really significant, especially for a singer or an artist. Venus is the, ruler of Taurus, which Taurus is the voice, so it makes a lot of sense. But her Chirons in Jupiter's bounds also excellent. It's retrograde, which not great. If you have a retrograde planet in the first house or close to the ascendant, that's going to indicate some setbacks, some immaturity, right? Some like not immaturity, well, immaturity when young, but like holding you back, right? I'm just curious when the Chiron went direct. So yeah, not even in her life. But interesting. And certainly we could make a case for Whitney Houston being wounded, right? But there's probably other indications about that as well. Whitney Houston was certainly unique, dynamic. Not so much, not sure about the healer part, right? Like she doesn't really feel like much of a healer, but definitely wounded. And we saw that really come out as she got older. Chiron is trying to Neptune and Scorpio. It's not a bad aspect, but it is an aspect, and Neptune is the co-ruler, I would say, co-ruler of Pisces, right? A lot of people would argue about that, but I say it is. Chiron also has aspects with, especially with Pluto here, but also Mercury in Virgo, strong Mercury, but Mercury Pluto, and then widely Uranus. So we can see like this Chiron probably has the issues with it, especially it being in pretty bad aspect to Pluto, right? Opposition, which is obsession, right? Pluto's very obsessed and psychological, and definitely has addictive qualities. I mean, Neptune is usually, especially Neptune and Scorpio, and I'm relating it to her drug abuse, obviously. Neptune and Scorpio in the ninth house definitely wants to celebrate in kind of so intense ways, right? And so it's tying into that. A lot of water here. Pluto in the seventh, probably instigated by relationships, that's going to drive her towards um, her own insecurity. The insecurities and fears are going to be activated by this opposition with Pluto and Uranus, because Chiron is still bringing the fear factor, the Saturnian qualities of fear, um and yeah, I mean, it certainly makes her unique. And we can see a lot about her voice here, but I don't know. Let me just pull up her Wikipedia, see if there's anything else relevant about that. um I mean, I feel like it's mostly just singing, but it just makes her very, very unique, individual, iconic, and chironic, which is, some people say, maverick, right? Um, so yeah, I think this has to do with, this is a bit more of a wounded Chiron, right? Because we're getting the bad aspects, right? And it's not Chiron on its own, it's Chiron really opposite to Pluto, very obsessive relationships, obsessive, very unusual. With Uranus here, the relationships are going to be kind of explosive and like intense, and we know that we know about her pretty bad relationships. But anyway, yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. I think that's it. Like, uh, yeah, certain immaturity coming from the retrograde, or being held back, and then like just tying it into the relationships and the Neptune. Neptune's harmonious, but it's still like easy transition to celebrating with drugs and alcohol, that sort of thing. Not that it has to be that way, but because of the Chiron and Pluto, it gets negative real quickly, right? Um, Sun opposite Saturn in a night chart, also really difficult. Saturn's in good dignity here, but it's retrograde, and it's Saturn in a night chart, so it's going to be the most difficult. Uh, anyway, yeah, let's keep going. All right. Um, Next one is Shakira. Shakira. Um, there's two things I know for sure about Shakira, and one is that her hips are an oracle. Her hips tell the truth. They are a forget astrology. We should just be asking Shakira's hips about everything, because her hips apparently do not lie. They always tell the truth, which is fascinating. The Oracle of Shakira, we should call her, or her hips rather. The Oracle of Shakira's hips. The other thing is that if Shakira only has one name, but you have to say it twice, right? Shakira, Shakira. Those are the two things I really know about Shakira. Anything else is just speculation. But she does have South Node conjunct Chiron. Exact. It's exact, right? So that's very unusual. And so it's in the first house. Um, and we should see something about that in her early life. Let's pull it up. Okay, we know all about her singing success. Um, she's the only child. She's Spanish and Lebanese descent. Her father was Lebanon when he was 5. Moved to Colombia. Believe it or not, I did a lot of research before I made this video. It's just that I can't remember everything. My mind's not that, doesn't work that way. Um, all right. So she wrote her first poem when she was only 4 years old. She was growing up. She was fascinated watching her father. Um, she got a typewriter at age 7. She's been writing poetry since then. These poems eventually evolved into songs. When she was 2 years old, her older half brother, was killed at the age of 19 in a motorcycle accident. Um, and then she wrote a song when she was 8 about it, which was inspired by her father, who wore who for years wore dark glasses to hide his grief. When she was 4, her father took her to a local Middle Eastern restaurant. It's a drum sound. She started dancing on the table to a belly dancing song, and experience made her realize that she wanted to be a performer. She enjoyed singing for schoolmates and teachers and even the nuns in her Catholic school, but in second grade, she was rejected, that's keyword for Chiron, for the school choir because of her vibrato was too strong. The music told her that she sounded like a goat. That's Chiron. At school, she was often sent out of the class because of her hyperactivity. Also, potentially Chiron. She said she'd also been known as the belly dancer girl, as she would demonstrate every Friday. That's how I discovered my passion for live performance. Her father took her to Logan Park. One day I'm going to help these kids when I become a famous artist. Okay, so I think we get it. She was very unique, even as a child, indicating by the south node Chiron and the first house, which is herself. And then it's Saturn's bounds, so probably some restriction there, bringing out some of the negative qualities, of rejection, chironic rejection, right? Rejection because somebody's too unique, too different. The vocal teacher said to Shakira, of all people, that her singing wasn't good enough to be in the choir because of her vibrato, right? That music teacher is probably, hitting themselves for, being so ridiculous to someone like Shakira, who's obviously a legendary singer. She does have her Jupiter in Taurus, pretty much conjunct the midpoint of the ascendant and IC, which is quite good, I would say. But anyway, yes, Chiron, very obvious, conjunct her south node, being that as a child, it was, she had chironic, she had a chironic upbringing, very, very unique, different, like rejection and all that stuff. There's the squares with Mars, Mercury wide, Moon. But yeah, I mean, but that's another story. These oppositions are really intense. I don't want to go into that, take too long. All right. Serena Williams is the last of the first house. Chiron, part of fortune, similar to Shakira, actually. Well, at least ascendant wise. Venus, Chiron, Saturn, Chiron, Neptune, in conjunct, with Neptune being in the superior role, superior side of things. Chiron also forming a trine to Moon, which isn't bad, and then Moon square Neptune. But let's look at the Wikipedia. And we should find something in her, something about her that's very, very unique. I mean, besides the obvious, she's the world's highest paid woman athlete in 2016, earning almost 29 million. Let's see. I mean, she has at least 7 paternal half siblings. Her father homeschooled her and Venus. Okay. So this in conjunct to Sag with Neptune relates to well, it's eighth whole sign house, but ninth quadrant. And then we see the MC is in the ninth house, which also relates to teacher, right? But there's something about this Neptune, Chiron in conjunct in Sag that's important. Sag also relating to education, higher education, teaching. And Neptune is loss or deception or imagination. Um, when she was 9, her family moved to from Compton to West Palm Beach. Um, I'm just reading this. So it has a lot to do with coaching because, all right, when Williams was in the 9th grade, her father pulled his daughters out of Matchie's academy and took over all coaching at their home. When asked in 2000 whether it would be good to have been more beneficial for them to have followed the normal path of playing regularly on the junior circuit, Richard responded, "Everyone does things different. I think for Venus and I, we just attempted a different road and it worked out for us." So, um, experiences of racism also influences decision. So this tied into her training, her coaching, and racism. Um, Neptune and Sag. Well, so first of all, it's the 9th house, but Neptune is like something missing, um, a loss of something, and the Chiron is rejection, wounds, potentially, right? But uniqueness as well. And so I think this relates to her parents pulling her out of the academy due to racism and coaching her on her own. I mean, plus we also get the MCs in Capricorn, pointing to her father, South Node in Capricorn in the 10th house. So yeah, um, there's qualities of that. Plus she's just, it just shows a very, very unique, chironic, one of a kind individual person. Uh, that has potentially also something to do with Neptune, right? Um, Neptune ruling the 12th, Neptune square the moon. The thing with Neptune is that we don't always know what it really represents because Neptune can be very secretive and hidden qualities of things, right? So there could be something there, that we don't exactly know about, but we do know that Sag relates to teaching or coaching or parents, not parents, but like like teachings of the father, they say, like in Vedic 9th house, as well as just higher education in general. So there's something about her education, her training that was very unusual. Um, Exotic, Neptune. Mm, acting, Neptune often relates to acting, so I don't know how that, I mean, obviously you can't act as a tennis player, you're not going to do that well, but anyway, that's that one. Let's go to Robert Pattinson. All right, Robert Pattinson played the vampire in the Twilight saga. Okay. Chiron in the 2nd house. And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Because let's see, Chiron's in Gemini, Venus is bounds. It doesn't really have any amazing aspects, but because acting is often showing up strongly in the 2nd house, because the voice, right? Um, the voice, the appearance, the dress, the attitude, the everything for show, right? The 2nd house is all the put-ons, everything we put on, right? Um, he's going to be able to play very unusual roles, like vampires, like Batman, right? He played a Batman in the most, and I don't think he was very good at all. Like he hardly talked. Like he was just like the silent Batman. I don't know. I didn't like it. Um, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, the roles and those are the two roles I know. I don't know what else he's played in, but Yeah, vampire, Batman. Those are chironic roles because they're just like fantasy, unique. They just don't they don't they're not mundane, right? They're unique. They're completely their own thing. So we see that again and again with Chiron that it shows up in like those like superheroes or just like made up fantasy type stuff, right? And so that's his kind of image, Chiron. Interestingly enough, his co-star also has similar placements, both Mars conjunct the MC and then Chiron in the second, Kristen Stewart. And that's who we're gonna look at. I didn't even need to pull up his Wikipedia, but her either, really. I mean, same thing. Chiron in the second. I mean, she's got this great Jupiter. It's exalted. It's in Mars's bound, so it's not as strong as it could be, right? Because Mars does not do well in Cancer. So there's some like edgy emotionality to this Jupiter, sexuality, potential even like hidden violence there, even though it's still Jupiter and it's still great, right? This Venus, however, is excellent. It's in its own bounds, exalted in the 10th house, right? And it's trine this Jupiter. So and then Jupiter is exalted. I mean, Jupiter is in domicile, and so this Venus is like super duper. Right? But anyway, this Venus Jupiter trine is excellent. But this Chiron the second, also in Venus's bounds, Cancer. Yeah, it's similar to Robert Pattinson's. It's just like she can play these very unusual roles, and she often does. Chiron is opposite Uranus and Neptune, so I'm not going to say there's not some wounding there, potential self-esteem, self-worth issues. She probably gets really depressed from time to time, especially Cancer. Probably just, and then she puts off this attitude, like we can kind of feel it, um, like almost like this negativity, right? Like she's troubled, like a troubled teen vibe, right? And I think that does have to do with Chiron in the second, opposite Uranus, Neptune, even Saturn. Saturn's in great dignity here. It's in domicile in Capricorn, also in its own bounds. But it's in the eighth house, shared resources and intimacy and all that. But it's in great dignity, so that's not a major problem. It's not even the out of sec malefic. That would be Mars. Mars is conjunct the MC in its own bounds, though, so it's pretty strong as well. Anyway, this Neptune Uranus opposite Chiron definitely speaks to something difficult as far as her own psychology. Um, it's still what I mean, this is like other people's psychology, but but this is, sextile the 12th, her self-worth, her self-image. We kind of feel that we kind of get that, but also like Chiron just being like, okay, she can also play a vampire, right? She can also play these weird roles, angsty, emotional, sexual, violent, edgy kind of things, um, due to this combination. Um, she probably has a pretty good ability to understand other people though with this combination psychologically. So she's probably pretty sharp, right? So anyway, Kristen Stewart. Don't need to read the Wikipedia for that. All right. Robin Williams. Uh, Chiron in second in Sag, in conjunct the Sun, and square Saturn. So this is also, I mean, this one also really obvious. I mean, of course, he's got his ascendant lord, Mars. Mars. Mars is in Cancer, so where it's debilitated, conjunct Uranus. And so that is number one, an indication of his comedy, but also nervous issues, especially mental illness, nerve pain, nerve. He's hyper nerves, hyper nervous, but that was part of his charm. But this um, Sun's ruling the MC, 10th house. It's in the ninth. It's in Cancer, and it's in conjunct Chiron the second, and Saturn. So like yeah, this whole self-image, Lewy body disease, mental illness, um, you know, weirdness. I mean, it probably worked, not probably, it definitely worked really well for him having Chiron in the second, with all the crazy roles that he plays, like all the movies that he plays, just so unique and individual, right? Um, from the first TV show, Mork and Mindy. I used to watch that. Nanu Nanu. That was great, right? To all of them, like all the million billion roles that he's played, plus stand-up comedy, just so weird, unique, right? Chiron bringing in that Aquarian vibe. Um, it's in Sag, but it's square Saturn, so there's definitely issues here. Chiron's retrograde, so there's like self. I know he was depressed. There was a lot of self-esteem, self-image problems, Lewy body syndrome, right? And um, this square to Saturn, Saturn's in the superior position. Definitely did not help. Probably made it. I mean, it's just like pretty exact. So it's really intense. So he really just never quite felt good about himself, right? Sun, Saturn, bad aspect, and then Mars Uranus, which is tremendous for the comedy, but not so easy, not so easy to take on the body. Um, but I mean, plus Mercury, Pluto, he's mentally obsessed, right? His mind never shuts off. It's just like, all right, let's keep going. Charles Manson, lovely man, lovely man, swell guy. All right, Charles Manson, Chiron in the second. Uh, Chiron in conjunct Jupiter. Um, Chiron, trying the North Node moon. That's exact. Um, let's see here. So Jupiter's the eighth lord and the 11th lord. So definitely like, the criminal element, the shared resources, going into other people, um, and the friends, groups, networks, in conjunct this Chiron the second. Um, his voice, his appearance, his I mean, Charles Manson is like, one of the most infamous criminals of all time, right? And what is his appearance? Not only that, iconic, right? Because part of that is Chiron the second. Like he just uh has a swastika tattooed on his forehead. Like who does that? Right? That's Chiron in the second, like in Gemini expressive, right? It's retrograde. Um, but yeah, like he's just iconic appearance, right? And that has a lot to do with this Chiron in the second. It's in conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter um is actually, so Chiron's in the dominant role, this Jupiter. So Chiron, this weirdness, this uniqueness, which he's really embracing, right? He's not afraid of rejection. He's been rejected by everyone, by all society, basically, thrown in jail. But he embraces it pretty well. Um, it's dominating over this Jupiter, right? Um, so it's a huge part of his his whole shtick, which is, a lot of his shtick is manipulating people. We can see that with the seventh house Scorpio placements. Um, but yeah, I mean, this probably helped him rise to prominence. Saturn in good dignity here, and then North Node Moon. But anyway, I think that's pretty obvious. All right, let's go to the third house, and we got Christina Aguilera. All right. Now this is actually the fourth whole sign house, but third quadrant. It's something I just got to mix it up. But it's exactly conjunct the moon. Okay, in Jupiter's bounds. So pretty good dignity. I mean, moon's exalted here. Uh, it is widely square the south node or the nodes in general. But not too many other aspects. Um, yeah, let's read about it. Because this should involve perhaps siblings, mother, and yeah, just general childhood or education, entertainment, right? Skills. Um, Also Taurus relating to singing. So it kind of says she'll be a unique singer. Let's see. Uh, Referred to as the voice of a generation. Well, Chiron is kind of a generational planet. She is noted for her 4-octave vocal range, musical reinventions, sustaining high notes, including the use of whistle register, and signature use of melisma. I don't even know what that is the singing of single syllable of text while moving between several different notes in succession. Okay. I think that's like this. I think Amy Winehouse does that as well. Recognized as an influential figure in pop music. She also known for incorporating controversial themes such as feminism, sexuality, blah blah, bunch of different stuff. All right, that's all very chironic because it isn't Taurus. It's conjunct her moon, which was the fifth lord, so entertainment, right? Third house expression. But let's look early life because it's still gonna play out in her early life most likely. All right. Father's an Ecuadorian immigrant. Mother's all over blah blah blah. Due to her father's military service, her family moved frequently, short distance travel. Third house. Um, they moved to Japan. Um, she experienced bullying at her school. That is a chironic quality because of the rejection. And that's the moon is conjunct Chiron in the third from the fifth school. So that relates. She's moved to Pennsylvania. Uh, Her father physically and emotionally abused her. Um, Moon is not related to father, but Chiron, I mean, so that would be Mercury potentially. Um, Although, I think moon as a general significator can relate to childhood, right? And but there has to be more than that. There has to be more. I mean, Sun, Neptune. Anyway, there's got to be other stuff besides that for father's abuse. Um, she noted that this is what her made her turn to music, noting that growing up in an unstable environment and whatnot, music was my only real escape. She filed to divorce Fausto. Oh, Fausto. Who's Fausto? Oh, her mother. Right. Right. So her mother divorced the father, moved with Aguilera to her mother's home, a suburb of Pittsburgh. And that's also, the moon Chiron connection. And third, that tying her to her mother through chironic rejection. Aguilera moved to her grandmother's home. Um, okay, so she had a very chironic, unusual sort of upbringing, as evident here. We get the sextile to part of fortune, but the square to the nodes. Chiron ruling the 12th house, so exotic foreign places. If you want to, I mean, also the ascendant. Let's not forget that. So it is tied to her. I mean, I would say like I'm saying, I'm calling it that. It's retrograde. So there's probably some issues there. But generally not terrible, right? But this is actually the fourth whole sign house, so let's not forget about that. So this does very much relate to her childhood. It is conjunct the moon, and then moon in the fourth whole sign house indicates a strong indication of motherhood, motherliness, right? Mother and grandmother in this case. Um, but yeah, and this would be the sixth whole sign house moon, so conflict. But definitely a difficult or challenging upbringing, but music would be a huge part of that, and then strong motherly influence. The show. All right, let's keep going. Um, yeah. All right, Rihanna. Now this one is definitely more in the third house. Um, third whole sign house, third quadrant. So that should speak to her siblings. So I'm gonna skip over we all know about Rihanna. She's daughter of accountant Monica, blah blah blah. Her mother is Afro-Guyanese, while her father is Barbadian or African Irish, English, Scottish. She has two brothers and two half sisters and a half brother from her father's side, each born to different mothers from his previous relationships. Do I need to keep reading? No, I don't really, but that's she grew up in a three-bedroom bungalow in Bridgetown and sold clothes with her father in a stall on the street. Her childhood was deeply affected by her father's alcoholism and crack cocaine addiction, which contributed to her parents' strained marriage. Rihanna's father used to abuse her mother physically, and Rihanna would try to get in between them to break up fights. Um, she had many CT scans for the excruciating headaches that she suffered, recalling the doctors, even thought it was a tumor because it was that intense. Now, third house is not fourth house, but it does relate because it's siblings and it's neighborhood, right? So it's pre fourth house, so it's related. And it's it's siblings and it's neighborhood and skills of the hands and all intellect, right? The mind, headaches, right? By the time she was 14, her parents had divorced and her health began to improve, right? So stress related headaches. She grew up listening to reggae music, where she studied. Um, so her family life, her siblings, were very unique and chironic. Retrograde, square the nodes. So it's huge influence on her everything. Plus, third house is expression, it's words, it's writing, it's music, musically related in that, it's the expressive part, right? Um, so yeah, obviously for singing, the third house is going to be very important. Um, and this Chiron is making her extremely unique, right? As far as like her intellect goes, her writing ability goes, her childhood, her siblings, all these things. I mean, it's square the nodes of destiny, so it's got to play a major role in all that, right? I don't know how much she writes her own music, but I bet she probably likes to have her hand in it, right? I don't know to what extent, but I bet it's pretty strong to a degree there. Um, yeah. What else? No, let's keep going. All right. Now we got everyone's favorite Russian president, Vladimir Putin. All right. Chiron in the third, in Capricorn. Um, this has a square to Pluto, which is a square and a half. So I would guess that there's something um third whole sign, but it's not the third. It's close enough to the third quadrant for me to see that to have it be the influence there. Um, Incidentally, Mars is pretty close to that midpoint between descendant or rather IC, sorry, and ascendant. So it's going to resonate with both those angular angles. So it's going to make it pretty strong, and it's in its own bounds in a fire sign, which is pretty good. So anyway, let's look at Putin. Um, so this is also the intellect and the mind. So he's a very unusual thinker. Youngest of three children. His grandfather was a personal cook to Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin. Putin's birth was preceded by the deaths of two brothers. Ooh, Albert, born in the 1930s, died in infancy, and Victor, born in 1940, died of diphtheria and starvation during the siege of Leningrad. Um, I think that's it. What else do we need to know? Um, as far as history goes. So that's Pluto, sesquisquare, Chiron sesquisquare Pluto in Capricorn. Yeah. Um, devastating. Right. Um, Chiron pulling in that fourth house signification. Um, Aquarius. So home, early life. And here we do get a bad outcome, particularly with that sesquisquare to Pluto. Very strong Pluto in Leo. And the South Node. South Node Pluto is also an indication of difficulty, crisis early on. Um, but Chiron in the third in general, especially in Capricorn, is going to give him a very unusual mind, very unusual intellect. He's going to be able to think about things in ways that other people can't. Oh, Vladimir Putin. And perhaps there can be some mental disturbances as well, especially because of the Pluto. But it's more South Node, so it's more in the past. I think as he gets older, it's not so much big deal. All right, now we're going to a very lovely man, Ted Bundy. Uh, this is actually in the fourth whole sign house, but third quadrant. So yeah, I'm including it. It's in Scorpio. So it's still influencing that fourth house where Scorpio fourth house, watch out. If there are planets in the fourth house in Scorpio, I don't know. You might want to think twice about going to their house, but let's just leave it at that. But let's look at his early life. Um, Ted Bundy was and Elizabeth Holmes. All right. His biological father's identity has never been confirmed. His original birth certificate apparently signs paternity to a salesman named in the Air Force named Lloyd Marshall. Through a copy listed, his father was unknown. Louise claims she met a war veteran named Jack Worthington, who abandoned her soon after she became pregnant. President. Census records, several men by the name of Jack Worthington and Lloyd Marshall lived near Louise when Bundy was conceived. Some family members expressed suspicion that Bundy was sired by Louise's own father. However, received a sample of Bundy's blood, and that DNA test had confirmed that Bundy was not a product of incest. But Chiron is very strange and weird. Bundy lived in Philadelphia, suburb of Roxborough. I know where Roxborough is. Not a place I want to be, but not terrible either. Who raised their son, social stigma that accompanied birth outside of wedlock at that time. So this is tying into the fourth house, but also I think, you know, somewhat to the third. Also the neighborhood, moving around. All right. So family, friends, and young Ted were told that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was his older sister. See, this is where it gets weird. It's like the fourth house blending in with the third house because it's young Ted was told that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was his older sister, right? So third, fourth house mixing. Chiron, Scorpio. Bundy eventually discovered the truth about his family, hidden secrets, right? Although his recollection of the circumstances varied, um, He told a girlfriend that a cousin showed him a copy of his birth certificate after calling him a bastard. Right. Um, he did not wrote that he did not find out until 1969 when he located his original birth record in Vermont. Bundy expressed a lifelong resentment towards his mother for never telling him about his real father and for leaving him to discover his true parentage for himself. Um, so it goes on, and he was just a very disturbed youth, um, really expressing the negative qualities of Chiron in Scorpio, right? In Mars's bounds. So pretty heavy duty Chiron here. See a lot of aspects, but just the fact that it's in Scorpio, fourth whole sign house, third quadrant, blending fourth and third, right? So it's not insignificant. It's not just only whole sign houses work or only quadrant houses work. You have to, if you want to get the full picture, you have to look at both of them. You do. So sorry if that bothers some of you, but it's just the way it goes. It's not like, you don't get to decide how astrology works. It works how it works. So anyway, Chiron, very prevalent for Ted Bundy, and probably, was one of the original, in this case, scars or wounds of rejection and lies and deceit, involving his family and his parents and his siblings, or who he thought was his siblings, Scorpio, what are secrets, right? Hidden nature of his origins, right? A lot going on down here. So in this case, yeah, wound, deep wound for sure for Ted Bundy. But it's not always that way. So I think it's a mistake to go around calling it the wounded healer. I think that's fucking stupid. And I think anyone who calls it the wounded healer just doesn't understand Chiron. Let's go on. Catherine Zeta Jones. Hmm. Like astrology is not made by people writing books. Astrology is astrology and it's observed by people writing books, and they might observe it wrong, right? But it's up to us to figure it out. All right, so we're in the fourth house now. And actually, this is Chiron's in the fifth whole sign house, but we'll have to deal with it. Life is not simple, right? Life is not cardboard cutout. Life is complicated. So astrology has to reflect that. But let's look up Catherine Zeta Jones. So fourth, fifth. Um, she aspired to be an actress from a young age. She played roles in the West End production. She studied musical theater and made her stage breakthrough with a leading role. All right, go to her early life. Um, her father is Welsh and her mother's Irish Catholic, named after Graham. She has an older brother and a younger brother. She was raised. She was a hyperactive child. Her mother sent her to Hazel Johnson School of Dance, when she was 4 years old. Okay, so we're tying in the fifth house, so that does relate. Um, uh, they won 100,000 pounds in bingo competition. She participated in school stage shows from a young age and gained local media attention when her rendition Shirley Bassey song won Junior Star Trail Talent Competition. Part of the dance troupe, she routinely took trips to London. At age 9, she was selected to play July. Early teens, she became a national tap dancing champion. She played lead role in Annie. 2 years later, she played the lead role, Bugsy Malone, She was 15. She left school without obtaining O levels and decided to live in London to pursue a full-time acting career. She was also engaged in performing touring productions of The Pajama Game, describing her teenage years in London. I would queue up for auditions and then change my costume to put on a different leotard and audition again. Um, it might take me 2 tries, but I always got the job. I figured out what they wanted. She went on to attend independent art education schools, a 3-year course of musical theater. So more of the same. Basically, it's really positive. Chiron here. Let's look at the aspects. Even though it's opposite Uranus and the sun, so that's really interesting. And I'm sure there's some things if we dig deeper that probably weren't as great. But what it's showing is that her childhood was filled with unusual education and acting opportunities, right? Um, Chiron, so Sun, Uranus, opposite Chiron. Chiron in the fourth quadrant, fifth whole sign house, relating to that as a youth, she was very much involved with fifth house things, education, schooling, training, right? Entertainment, the arts, performance arts, right? And that there was a relationship with, um, you know, some opposition, some oppositional aspect between Sun and Uranus. So like fame, notoriety, especially in this very prominent, it's 11th whole sign house, but it's in the sign of her MC even prior to it, but still 10th, 11th house. So like groups and public image career and all that. Also South Node conjunct South Node in the 10th whole sign house indicates early rise to success, especially with Pluto there. A very powerful introduction to the world stage, you could say. Sun is not very exalted here. I mean, it's not exalted at all. It's debilitated, but it's in Saturn's bounds. And Saturn is the exaltation lord of Libra. So Saturn has some influence here, and that's probably or definitely a much better place for Sun in Libra than well, the Venus part would be pretty good, but the Saturn part's not bad. It brings in that exalted element, the Saturn influence. And Saturn's in the fourth quadrant, fifth whole sign house. No, sixth whole sign house. Sorry. Anyway. Yeah. This Chiron does not seem to be badly damaged. I mean, Sun actually shines, exalts in Aries. So the Sun opposition is probably quite good. Well, some may argue that the poor dignity of the Sun has no effect, right? Can't do anything, but I don't know. Seem to have worked for Catherine Zeta-Jones. And the Uranus, I think that really pushes her, in her career, makes her more, dynamic, electric. So anyway, yeah. Very unusual upbringing, relating to fifth house topics and whatnot. But certainly not bad, and certainly not relating very much to wounded healing. Okay. Miley Cyrus. Already. Miley. Smiley. Yeah. So this is very much fourth house, fourth quadrant. And Chiron is going to be square Jupiter and square Pluto. So we know that her upbringing is going to be unusual. Pluto, Moon, Mercury, right? But mostly Pluto, the square, Chiron, and we already know her upbringing. We already know her childhood was extremely unusual, right? So, born to a mother and Billy Ray Cyrus, right? Billy Ray is a a famous country singer and songwriter and actor. Right. Um, her birth name was Destiny Hope, or is Destiny Hope. Um, Parents believed that she would accomplish great things. Her parents named her Smiley, which later shortened to Miley, because she smiled often as an infant. And then she changed her name to Miley. Um, Her middle honors, her grandfather, Democratic. Oh, well, who cares? Her godmother is Dolly Parton. Okay. Cyrus' parents secretly married a year after her birth. They had two more children. Um, Unusual sibling situation, family situation. They're all entertainers. Um, she attended. She was cast as Hannah Montana. The family moved to L.A. She raised as a Christian, Southern Baptist. Moved to Hollywood. She attended church. Wore a purity ring. She wore a pure. She's the opposite of pure. Nothing against her, but I don't know. When she was 8, she moved to Canada, um, where her father filmed the television series Doc. Miley, this is what I want to do, Daddy. I want to be an actress, she says. All right. Um, so she played a role in her father's television series Doc. She received credit. Young Ruthie. All right. She chose to appear in Hannah Montana after applying for a different role. Anyway, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Very unusual upbringing, right? As represented by Chiron in the fourth, in Leo. So Leo, a lot of fame, her upbringing is surrounded by fame and due to her father's fame. I mean, that's very obvious, right? And then Jupiter square. I mean, that's not a great aspect, but it's an aspect to Jupiter. So really expanding that like the chironic individuality, chironic strangeness, oddness, weirdness, right? And then the square to Pluto really shows up like now, even like we just know, like I mean, it's also conjunct the moon and Mercury, but Chiron square Pluto shows definitely there was some stuff, and probably hidden stuff, and probably stuff that's not going to be in Wikipedia, that could be abusive, right? Sexually, emotionally, mentally. Scorpio is very secretive, hidden, right? And fourth house, so is fourth house. So, I mean, besides all the stuff that's in Wikipedia, Wikipedia is heavily biased, right? It's not at all a neutral source. So they're going to leave out whoever wants left out, whoever the people that want to leave out, it's going to be left out, right? So there's a lot of stuff left out, in other words. But there's a lot of secrets and hidden things, and I mean, Miley Cyrus definitely has some issues, and I'm not against her, but she has issues, right? And so I think that's very strongly related to this Pluto, Moon, Mercury, square Chiron in the fourth, related to our upbringing and sexuality, hypersexuality. Of course, Mars is Cancer in the third. So that's our expression. But still, right? We've seen it again and again. All these girls who go through Disney or Nickelodeon or any of the similar things like that, they get all fucked up. But we're gonna see that in the chart. Let's go to Nicki Minaj. Nicholas Minaj. It's her full name. I'm just kidding. It's not. Nicotine Minaj is actually her real name. Just kidding. All right. Chiron in the fourth. Um, Pretty much exactly conjuncture I see. So, and it's retrograde, and it's opposite Jupiter in Scorpio. And in conjunct, Venus and Neptune. I mean, we got to include this whole Sag stellium here, really. But you know, Venus and Neptune and Mercury, pretty much. So there's some stuff going on here, relating to her childhood. I mean, there seems to be like it's a separating trine, but with Moon and Virgo, but you know, so that was dignified. That you know, Moon's the exaltation lord of Taurus, so there's probably some stuff that's good. All right. Um, let's just go to her early life. Um, she's all right. I'm not gonna read everything. I'm just gonna try and find the relevant stuff. Father was a part-time gospel singer. Her mother was also a gospel singer. So Taurus. Um, Minaj's father was addicted to alcohol and crack cocaine. Okay. Violent temper, burning down their house in December 1987. I'd say that qualifies. Um, she had siblings. She grew up with her grandmother in St. James in a household with 11 cousins. Um, all right. She moved to the Bronx and to Monroe College, leaving both Minaj and Jelani in Trinidad with their grandmother. Eventually, when Minaj was 5, Carol got her first house, and brought both Minaj. Okay, so that was her mother. Her mother moved away, interestingly enough. So I think that was eighth house. Eventually, when Minaj was, that's interesting because the separating trine. Eventually, Minaj was 5. Carol got her first house in Queens and brought Minaj and Jelani to live with her and their father. Minaj claimed that she came to the United States as an illegal immigrant, although by the time she moved, her mother subsequently and her father became permanent residents. I don't think I had a lot of discipline in my household. My mom motivated me, but I wasn't the strict, but it wasn't a strict household. I kind of wanted a strict household. Um, she auditioned for High School of Performing Arts. Um, she wanted to become an actress, and she got cast in a play. She struggled with her acting career and worked at Red Lobster. And she was fired for discourtesy to customers. Imagine that. She was fired from at least 15 jobs. Um, she bought a BMW at age 19 from waitressing. Okay, not relevant. But we could see that her upbringing was very unusual and disturbed and definitely chironic, especially because we're getting a lot of difficult aspects here. Jupiter, it's not, I mean, Jupiter can go either way, right? But it is in Scorpio, so it is bringing a scorpionic element. The trine from Moon is separating, which is really interesting because Moon's in the eighth and it's separating from Chiron or separating from the IC, showing that her mother did leave her. She was there for a while and it was good, but then she left her. But then, you know, she came back, and this is applying to the Mars. So foreign lands. Anyway, um, you know, Neptune, drugs, alcohol, Venus, Taurus. That's actually not bad because that's an exact hit. Dignifying, so like singing, music. So it's obviously a mixed bag. Mercury in conjunct, you know, probably more like emotional, but also siblings. Mercury, just a general significator of that. But yeah, a lot of, you know, really unusual chironic things happening in her youth, including her father burning the house down. Not very nice. So anyway, be interesting to take a deeper look into that and figure out what exactly happened there, but got to move on. All right. Uh, Denzel Washington is next. All right. Chiron in the fourth and Capricorn. A lot of activity down here at the bottom. And I can tell you right now, he does a lot of community activity work, right? Hometown, neighborhood. all that. But let's just go right to his early life and education, since we know about all about Denzel Washington. Very successful. She was a beauty parlor owner, Harlem, New York, native of Virginia. He was a minister, Pentecostal minister, who was also an employee and worked. All right. He attended this elementary school. When he was 14, his parents divorced, and his mother sent him to a private prep school in New Windsor, New York. Washington later said, the decision changed my life because I wouldn't have survived in the direction I was going. The guys I was hanging out with at the time, my running buddies, have now done maybe 40 years combined in the penitentiary. They were nice guys, but the streets got them. After Oakland, he attended another high school. He was interested in attending Tech University. All right, I think that's the most relevant stuff that we need to learn. But very unusual upbringing, some difficulties, some challenges, right? The streets, criminality and all that, but he made it. He survived. He did not get swept up in all of that stuff. And then direct opposition to Jupiter, also Uranus. So like some sudden events, some shocking change that Jupiter exalted. It worked out. I mean, Jupiter is not favorable to Chiron here, but I mean, he did get saved. Jupiter is Jupiter, right? Still Jupiter, still in good dignity in Cancer. It's exalted, but yeah, very sudden. So a lot of sudden things and shocks and twists and turns and Jupiter, right? It works out. Neptune, there's probably a lot of drugs and alcohol involved in his youth, and this, speculation, because we're not going to get everything from Wikipedia. So some things we just have to deduce on our own, which seems pretty accurate considering what he said about his friends, right? Yeah. So that's that. Let's go to the fifth house. Check the time. All right. Last one, then I'm going to pause it and I will come back. All right. Eminem, Mr. Candyman. Just kidding. All right. Chiron in the fifth house. It is in conjunct Venus, and that's exact. And then there's also an opposition to Mars, a little bit wide. But yeah, then Uranus, Pluto, even wider. Actually, Uranus and Mars are tighter than Pluto. Pluto's not really. But yeah, Uranus and Mars in Libra, and then opposite Chiron, and then the in conjunct with Venus. Venus is in Virgo, but it's in its own balance, so it's not as weak as it looks, this Venus. And he had like, I don't know if they're still together, but he had a girlfriend for a long time he's just stayed with. And she was, interestingly enough, she wasn't anyone special. She was like his high school sweetheart from the ghetto or wherever, right, from the trailer park. I know he grew up poor, and I'm not just being mean, but not just but yeah, Venus and Virgo, that's his girlfriend, but it's Venus, so there's some good dignity there. Anyway, Chiron, and that also speaks to, let's pull up his thing. I forget her name, but let's find out. All right, Marshall Mathers, born in Missouri, the only child, Scottish Welsh, blah blah blah. His mother nearly died during his 73-hour labor with him. And his parents were in a band called Daddy Warbucks, playing in Ramada Inns along the Dakota-Montana border. His father abandoned his family when Eminem was a year and a half old, and he was raised by his mother, Debbie, in poverty. His mother named her son, Nate. This is more about the fifth house, though, so it's probably relating to his schooling, but also him as an entertainer. Right, so let's try and find the significance there. Well, actually childhood bullying is relevant. When he was a child, a bully named D'Angelo severely injured Eminem's head in an assault, an incident which Eminem later recounted with comic exaggeration on the song Brain Damage. Debbie filed a lawsuit. but the suit was dismissed. And so Chiron in the fifth can indicate like schoolyard bullying, the fifth house schoolyard, right? Um, all right. For much of his youth, lived in working class, primarily black Detroit neighborhood. He and Debbie were one of three white households on the block. Eminem was beaten several times by the black youths. Chiron in the fifth. According to comic books, he was interested in storytelling. That's fifth house topic. He heard his first rap song. Um, all right, age 14, he began rapping. Um, Freestyle rap battles. So I mean that's related. Because fifth house, schoolyard. And then you know, Chiron does destabilize that fifth house. Um, okay, I mean, I'm just looking for relevant stuff. I think that's probably most of it. Just like, difficulty in school, bullying and all that. But I want to find his girlfriend. Um, Haley? Is that it? Mom spaghetti, family and relationships. Um, he has twice married Kimberly and Scott. Okay, so I think Haley's his daughter. He met Scott in his high school, and Scott and his twin sister ran away. So a childhood sweetheart. So that's the Chiron Venus connection with the fifth, and then this also relates to his daughter. Um, they moved with Eminem and his mother when she was 15, began one on and off relationship with Scott in 1980. I'd rather have a baby through my penis than get married again. Wow. He and Scott briefly remarried and filed for divorce, agreeing to joint custody of Haley, their daughter. So, I mean, so this inconjunct is an exact hit, but it's an inconjunct, right? And then it's Venus, Virgo, Venus, Venus. So it's like they married twice. It's good and bad, but it's like, very weird or unusual or different, relating to like, fifth house stuff, which often, yeah, it's the child, but it's also the schoolyard. So youthful romance that is difficult, but, works at the same time in some ways. They married twice. So go figure. Anyway, that's that. Mom spaghetti. Mercury, sorry, moon in Aquarius. Aquarius spaghetti. All right, I'm gonna take a break and I will be back. I'm back. And let me share my screen again. Let's go on to what do we have next? It is Arnold. Arnold. I'll be back. Schwarzenegger. Strong man. Governor. All right, Chiron in the fifth house, Scorpio. It's actually sextile his moon. So that's significant. And yeah, well, that's the main aspect that he's got. The moon is actually his ascendant lord. If you look to the actual degree of the ascendant, it's actually in Jupiter's bounds. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, so it's kind of you could say it's the exaltation lord and the bound lord. So Jupiter could be seen as a secondary ascendant lord, right? And we got the really nice trine to Mercury here and the ascendant, so that makes a lot of sense. But we could also look to the moon. Moon is debilitated in the seventh quadrant, sixth whole sign, or reverse that, seventh whole sign, sixth quadrant, indicating like very competitive orientation. With the sextile to Chiron showing something very unique and distinct about his career or his life path, really his the life direction, because that's where the ascendant lord goes to, as well as tying into like the sixth house competition and seventh house as well. Seventh house could be, you know, in a competitive role as well, because the opponent, the opposition, right? But it's more competitive. And then fifth house for entertainment. He was in a lot of movies, tying in that whole thing. And then I'll just let's pull up the no, sorry, wrong thing. Wikipedia. Just I'm gonna read about his early life. Um so I guess his father joined the Nazi party. Very nice. Um so military policeman. So that's probably well, I mean the Scorpio can definitely relate to that. Um all right. Grew up Catholic. Gustav preferred his eldest son, Meinhard, over Arnold, and his favoritism was strong and blatant. Imagine that, a Nazi having favorites over his children. Huh. It stemmed, I guess, it stemmed from the unfounded suspicion that Arnold was not his biological but it was unfounded. All right. That's very scorpionic, but this fifth house we're talking about, it still relates. Um, his father was not very nice. He had a good relationship with his mother. Um, Fortunately, he suffered what would now be called child abuse at the hands of his father. My hair was pulled. I was hit with belts. So was the kid next door. It was just the way many of the children I've seen were broken by their parents, which was the German Austrian mentality. Well, they were Nazis, so they're not exactly like really nice, warm, you know, big-hearted people. They didn't want to create an individual. It was all about conforming. I was one who did not conform, and those who could not be broken, and whose will could not be broken. Therefore, I became a rebel. Every time I got hit, and every time someone said, "You can't do this," I said, "This is not going to be for much longer because I'm going to move out of here. I want to be rich. I want to be somebody." At school, he was reported average, but stood out for his cheerful, good humor, and exuberant character. He struggled with reading and was later diagnosed as being dyslexic. Okay, Chiron in the fifth. Money was a problem in their household. Schwarzenegger recalled that one of the highlights of his youth was when they bought a refrigerator. Um, Influenced by his father, Schwarzenegger played several sports as a boy. Okay. And so it just keeps going on, and there's probably, more similar stuff. Let's look back at the chart. Um, so Venus is the fourth lord, but this ties to the moon in Capricorn, so I can't help but thinking this is related to the abuse, because moon is in poor dignity here. Moon is usually related to the mother, but in Capricorn, um, uh, the Saturn Pluto might also be an indication of that, although we look to Venus. Venus is in Saturn, bound in Cancer. I don't know. Anyway, child abuse, I'd have to dig a little bit deeper. The father doesn't really seem, well, I guess the square to Ceres from the sun, perhaps. Um, but it is a nighttime chart, so Saturn would be the worst, the malefic out of sect, and Moon is disposited by Saturn, so maybe that has something to do with it. But Chiron in the fifth also, difficulties at school, dyslexic, so some issues there, but also just a really unique character because it's perfectly in trine with perfectly sextile the moon, which is the ascendant lord, the domicile lord of the ascendant. So it just shows somebody who's very unique, very distinct, and Um, very competitive as well. So he's not going to fall to abuse, fall victim to abuse, even though he did. It's not like psychologically. I mean, that could be Mars in the 12th. But don't want to get too far away. All right. Now we got Nicole Kidman. All right. And she's the bug queen. Um, but yeah, so she's got Chiron in Pisces at the anaretic degree in the fifth whole sign house in the fifth quadrant. So very fifth. All right. Chiron is square the sun. Okay. Chiron is also it's showing trine to Ceres, but that's square Venus. Okay, the main thing, Chiron is square the sun. All right. Chiron in the fifth, sun in the eighth, right? The bug queen, the Gemini bug queen, ruling the MC, right? So she's gonna play dark roles, more mysterious roles, eighth house stuff, but she could also really be involved in secret hidden things like occult, you know, Illuminati type stuff. She's not gonna brag about it, she's not gonna tell you about it. She'll probably just, go on TV doing commercials about eating bugs. I mean, that's a clear indication that she's working with the Illuminati because they want us to eat bugs, right? So anyway, um, let's look up Chiron. Let's look up her fifth house. I mean, this is also just entertainment, but we'll probably see reflections of this in her schooling in childhood. All right. She's born in Hawaii while her Australian parents were temporarily in the United States on student visas. Her mother, nursing instructor, member of Women's Electoral Lobby, edited her husband's book. Her father, Anthony Kidman, was a biochemist, clinical psychologist. Okay, so sun in the eighth house, square Chiron, and author. Having been born in America to Australian parent, Kidman holds dual citizenship. She has English, Irish, and Scottish ancestry. Born in Hawaii, she was given a Hawaiian name, Hokulani, meaning heavenly star. When Kidman was born, her father was a graduate student in Hawaii. He became visiting fellow at the National Institute of Mental Health, the United States, opposed to the Vietnam War. Her parents participated in anti-war protests. Um, her family eventually returned to Australia. She grew up in Sydney. Um, she was enrolled in ballet at the age of 3 and showed her natural talent for acting during her primary and high school years. So, yeah, it ties to schooling. Everyone goes to school, but so like unusual schooling or especially because it's aspecting the sun, so something having to do with her fame or notoriety, recognition came from school. Kidman has said first aspired to become an actress upon watching performance. Wizard of Oz. She she revealed that she was timid as a child, saying, "I'm very shy, really shy. I even have a stutter as a kid." That's Chiron, which I slowly got over, but I still regress into that shyness. So I don't like walking to a crowded restaurant by myself. I don't like going to a party by myself. During her teenage years, she attended Phillips Street Theater alongside fellow actress Naomi Watts, where she took up drama and mime as she found acting to be a refuge. Owing to her fair skin, okay, that's enough. She dropped out of high school and pursued acting. Okay, well, Pisces makes a lot of sense for the fifth house, and then Chiron square the sun, anaretic degree, also makes a lot of sense. All right, and we're getting some, I think probably because it's very close to the Cancer sign, ninth whole sign house, there was ties to foreign travel as well as higher education with the father that was relating to it. But it didn't really seem like This is a bad square, like no, like really bad abuse or anything like that. Um, Probably having to do with the signs involved. It's no real, um, yeah, poor dignity here. I mean, Chiron, we don't really know. Like I'm ascribing it to Aquarius, but it, you know, there's no Pluto involvement or anything like that. Anyway, the shyness, you know, unusual qualities, growing up, stuff like that. It's not a really bad one, but her father might have been very unique and unusual kind of person, having this square to Chiron. And just in general, as a general signification, she's weird, right? She just does I mean, it's Scorpio rising, don't get me wrong, right? And then, Neptune and Scorpio in the first house. So she's like, that gives her like tremendous sex appeal, kind of like this exotic sexiness, which she has, this dark, alluring quality. Um, but then, bugs are very chironic because they're gross and they're disgusting. And who wants to eat bugs except Nicole Kidman? I don't think she wants to eat bugs, but she wants us to eat bugs. So she pretends she likes bugs. But that's very chironic. Chiron square the sun. All right. Let's go to King Charles. Um, Not doing too well right now. And I don't wish him harm, so. But he's got his sun conjunct Chiron. So he's also weird. It's also in Scorpio. Charles is known for writing these, what was called like the spider letters, right? He wrote these letters and they looked like it's very like dark and eerie and like they weren't looking at his astrology, but they aptly named it because he's very scorpionic and chironic. Not ironic, chironic. um, let's see. So Sun is his ascendant lord. So this is like he's super chironic. He's just a weird little man. This is in the fourth whole sign house, but fifth quadrant. Um, so children. His children are, signified by this as well. To some extent, I'm a fourth whole sign house. Okay. It's him alone or him at home, and also having to deal with his home, Scorpio, power, control, caves, dungeons, things like that. Mines, gold mines, diamond mines, all the wealth, buried treasure, right? Scorpio, power. But also relating to his kids. And there's a lot of speculation about his kids. Are they really his? We don't even know. um, but yes, he's a very weird Scorpio. Scorpio Chiron. Um, some people might relate this to his cancer, but I mean, it's just so it's like everyone cancer is so likely that anyone can, I mean, he's old. He's old now, 1948. He's in his mid 70s, so it's not that unusual. I mean, you want to make a case for I think it has much more to do with his personality and perhaps something to do with his children that it's like influencing it's still in the I mean, we still have to consider the quadrant house cuss, or I do anyway. I think it's relating to his kids. Um, that there's some weirdness there. But anyway, even if it's just him and his personality, he's a weird man. And he writes spider letters um, to people. Let's just pull that up. All right. We could look up his early life. It's probably, it could be something, but um, find out about these letters, which I remember reading. I know it's somewhere in here. I probably skipped over it, but. Anyway, um, I can't find it. He's a very unusual man. Not necessarily in a bad way. He's very into natural medicine and organic gardening and stuff like that. And I like that stuff too. It's probably his moon in Taurus. Um, anyway, he wrote these letters to the government trying to be um influential, stating his opinion. Um, and they called them something like the spider letters, and it was very appropriate, but they didn't know astrology. And apparently the government didn't like that very much. They were like, stop sending us your letters. We don't really want to have to listen to you. I don't know. I don't really know how it works, but something like that. Anyway, that's Charles. Um, it also points to something strange about his father, right? The sun is dispositing Pluto, so adding to the scorpionic nature of his. But here's sort of like the natural medicine, organic farming. It's in Venus. It's very prominent. 10th whole sign house, very strong this moon. Queen Mother. Anyway, full moon. Full moon. Not quite an eclipse. Pretty close though. All right. Let's go to the sixth house. And we're gonna do Miss Angry Donna. Mad Donna. Donna is very upset. She's angry. All right, Chiron in the sixth. Um, Chiron opposite Sun and Uranus, pretty much. I mean, this the opposition to Uranus and Chiron is pretty generational, and I have to say that's probably a big part of why everyone thinks that Chiron is our deepest wounds. Our deepest wounds is actually usually caused by Uranus because Uranus is an indicator of trauma, right? Deep and Uranus, let's just be real. Uranus is way more significant than Chiron. Chiron's a little tiny rock. Uranus is a huge fucking planet. So, I mean, if Uranus is an aspect of Chiron, it's Uranus. Uranus is doing whatever the thing is, right? It's Uranus because Uranus has way more influence than Chiron, right? So if there's trauma, um, something like an accident, something really negative, then it's probably Uranus that is doing the damage way more than Chiron. It can, it's not going to rule our deepest wounds when Uranus is the planet of fucking lightning bolts that will kill you, right? I mean, it's just anyway. Sun opposite Chiron, that makes her weird. That makes her unique. That makes her distinct, right? And if she's using it in a very positive way, we got this, Chiron sextiles Saturn, um, in the sixth house. Then it's, opposite the sun. It's going to make her very unique, very distinct, which she is, right? Also Uranus as well, right? Um, but let's see, Chiron in the sixth house. Um, that is going to bring conflict to her, oppositional conflict, which she has. I mean, she's always like, I, she's weird. I mean, she's not my favorite person, let's put it that way. But also, it's going to tie into her Saturn um, upbringing. Um, so her Saturnian fourth house, her Saturn in the fourth, which would relate to her parents, her upbringing, her youth. Let's just read about that real quick. Alrighty. Um, born in Michigan to Catholic parents. Madonna Luis. Okay, that's where the name comes from. Um, her father's her father's parents were Italian immigrants. Her mother was French Canadian. Um, Blah, blah, blah. Madonna had the same name as her mother. Family members called her Little Nani. Her mother died of breast cancer. Madonna later adopted Veronica as a confirmation name. It's all boring. Uh, Talking about Sixth House. So why am I reading about her upbringing? I don't know. Her father, maybe, but all right. Sixth House has to do with daily struggle and whatnot, daily grind, um, conflict, competition. So, oh yeah, I was looking for the Saturnian stuff. Um, that's why I looked. Yeah. Anyway, her upbringing would have been very unusual with the Chiron sextile Saturn, but very strict as well, very Saturnian. Um, and her father would be very unusual. Also, this indicates a lot of unusual conflicts. Like she probably picks her battles, or battles are picked for her that are very have something very strange or unusual about them, getting into unusual. She gets into, and she has been in like online fights, online quarrels, and things like that. Like I think 50 Cent was like I don't know, beefing with her, said something about her online, stuff like that. But that's going to happen, right? Sixth house also will deal with if she's writing any music. It'll pick up on the sixth and the third as well, both. It'll strongly influence that because sixth house is very academic house. But just in general, it applies to her creativity and her creative outlet, her work, right, and her general significations with the sun and Leo. Sun ruling the 12th is very creative, but it's picking up on this Chiron, making her very unique, making her an icon. Right? Interesting how the whole Madonna thing, like that was her mother's name. I didn't realize that it became her name, but Virgin Madonna, Virgo, heavy Virgo, right? And then like a Virgin was one of her first songs, so it fits perfectly. Now we're going to a friend, Jennifer Aniston. Now this one's great because the sixth house is where we would look at for TV shows. Obviously, it's seventh whole sign, but it's deep in it's sixth quadrant, right? North Node, Chiron, and then Venus, in the sixth house for friends, right? Um, the TV show is what I'm saying, because that's a sixth house thing, as opposed to like some 12th house planets, which also good for movies, film in general, creativity. But Chiron is very Chiron here in the sixth. It's at 0 degrees Aries. Um, it's bringing up the uniqueness of her role, of her relationship with the show. Like, yeah, okay, the show was very unique. I used to watch Friends. At the time, it was pretty groundbreaking, pretty, you know, entertaining, very unique, one of a kind show. And that's one of the roles of Chiron. It's also, look, sextile uh Mercury at 0 degrees Aquarius, right? So that's really good. And that's a very indicative of Friends too, because Aquarius, Mercury, right? Fourth house, home. Sun and Aquarius. Um, what was I saying? Chiron's role is to make something very unique. Now it can backfire, obviously, if it's not well aspected, but it can make something just so unique that it stands out. And that's one of the things that we love. And the reason I'm bringing this out is because this does not get nearly enough attention, if any attention at all, as far as Chiron's role to be the thing that sets something apart. Look, if everything's just carbon copies of each other, nothing's going to stand out. Everything's going to be the same, and it's going to all be fucking boring, and nobody's going to be interested. Look, I'm a Gemini. I pick up on this shit because I get bored easily. So I want to find the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing is often represented by Chiron, right? So we're misinterpreting Chiron. We're giving it a bad rap. We're just like being stuck on, oh, wounded healing, wounded healing. That's all we can say when talking about Chiron. Wounds and healing, wounds and healing. That's not it. You're missing the point. Yeah, we need to just like there's so much in astrology that's just not it's not right because they're coming from the outside in. I'm coming from the inside out. I'm not saying I'm the only one. There are other astrologers who really understand the astrology inside out, but we need more of that, right? And less of this carbon copy, academic astrology where we're just reading and parroting and you know ruining astrology because we can't think. It's a shame. Um, this is a clear indication. It's North Node, Chiron, exact hit in the sixth house. I've heard uniqueness in TV, right? And it's indicative of friends, right? But it's also about her herself as somebody who's really unique and can play a recurring role, like Rachel on Friends, right? Jupiter's bounds. Venus is in its own bounds. Venus is the ascendant lord in Venus's bounds. So our ascendant is quite strong. And then, yeah, Aries, but in Venus's bounds in the sixth house. And then Venus in Aries is often very pretty. She is. And then we get this also, just incidentally, Mars in Scorpio, conjunct Neptune in Scorpio in the second. So her outward appearance, like not just her face, but like the way she dresses and wears her hair and makeup, it's hot and sexy, right? That's represented here, right? But her general thing is sixth house, so it's more mundane. She's not like a supermodel. She's just like a really hot TV actress. Anyway. That's Aniston. Where am I? Okay. Let's go to Gandhi. Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi. All right. Chiron in the sixth in Aries, seventh whole sign, but sixth quadrant. And so Venus, same as Jennifer Aniston. Venus, Scorpio, Mars in Mercury's bounds. Mercury also in Scorpio. But what Chiron has a pretty tight sesquisquare to Venus, which is the ascendant lord, which makes him look weird, right? It makes him look weird. He's this short little man with a funny face and very powerful, right? But yeah, the Chiron definitely is adding to that. It's also ruled by Mars. So there's some, yeah, it's hitting Venus, but Mars is connecting with it. This Venus is not great dignity, but it's helped out by Mars in Scorpio, right? Venus is opposite its domicile in Taurus. Plus there's the opposition to Pluto and Jupiter, making him very, very obsessive in his Jupiterian sort of justice philosophy, Jupiter's bounds, right? Also very manipulative, right? Well, he manipulated all of England into leaving India. So how's that for manipulation? Pretty good, I'd say. Yeah, that's pretty strong opposition there. Is it bad? Is it Saturnian? I don't think so. Anyway, yeah, this Chiron in the sixth is probably going to make his, daily life very strange, very weird, very unique. But look, this Neptune also tying in to this Mars, and then this Chiron to the Venus, ascendant Lord Venus, eighth Lord Venus as well. He fasted, and that would be a sixth house thing because it's daily life. It's sort of like a routine. That's probably related to this Chiron as well. Neptune, loss. I mean, that could be a second house thing as well. Mars and Scorpio controlling the mouth. Anyway, but the main thing is that I think this makes him look weird, really weird. But of course, it's tied also into the Jupiter, Pluto, and Neptune. Yeah, there's probably other indications, like his daily life was probably just very strange and odd, weird habits and things like that. Let's go on. Anna Nicole Smith. Chiron in the sixth. Trine, Neptune. Yeah, this trine. And Sun trine Saturn. So she was, I have a little blurb about her. All right. She was an American sex symbol, model, actress, and celebrity. Her highly publicized marriage to oil business executive and billionaire J. Howard Marshall, 63 years. Her senior resulted in speculation that she married um, the octogenarian for his money, which she denied. Following his death, she began a lengthy legal battle over a share of his estate. It reached the Supreme Court on a question of federal jurisdiction. And I have no idea how it came out. Don't really care. But I guess it'd be for astrological purposes, it'd be good to know. But so Chiron is in the sixth in Pisces, trining Neptune. So there's something dishonest there, especially Mercury conjunct Neptune. Scorpio, so Neptune and Scorpio in the second house is definitely related to her sex appeal. Also Venus, and Venus is bound in the first house in domicile, Libra, right? Conjunct Moon. And then of course Saturn in the seventh whole sign house in Aries, retrograde. In Jupiter's bounds, represents the old man that she married. Poor dignity. Yeah. But Mars, look at it. Look how it turns out. Mars, in Mars's bounds, exalted in the fourth house. So, like, does she gain? Probably. It's square the nodes. So exactly. So there's something very significant about that. And Mars is ruling the north node in the seventh in Saturn's bounds. So like the old man. So definitely it's sort of like fated. But as far as Chiron goes, it's trying her Neptune, and so it's in Neptune's sign of Pisces. So this is going to influence her appearance, right? And so like let's pull up um her Wikipedia. It's going to influence, I'm sorry, Gandhi, Nicole Smith. All right. So Neptune and Scorpio trying Chiron. It's going to make her the way she dresses, the way she presents herself, her self-esteem, self-confidence. It's gonna add a lot to that. So let's look. She was a model, actress, television personality. Smith started her career as Playboy magazine centerfold, and then won the title of Playmate of the Year. She later modeled for fashion companies, including Guess, H&M, Heatherette. All right. So that all has to do with the second house. Okay, obviously the first house, Venus, second house, Neptune and Scorpio, the sexiness of her, the way she presents herself, right? But it's also trine Chiron. So there's something not only sexy, very unique about it all. Mercury's there too. Mercury's not very sexy, but it's gonna play in a different way. It's gonna make her more intellectual about it, more smart, right? More expressive. But the Chiron's gonna really set her apart, right? Even if it's in the sixth house. Sixth house is magazines, right? So it's in Mars's sign, so it's definitely adding to the sex appeal, but the uniqueness of it. Not wounded, right? Although if we look at the Pluto Uranus opposition, now we get it something different. And this brings up the idea of the court case, especially Saturn is law and authorities. So yeah, there's definitely going to be battles and oppositions, difficult situations. I think she wins in the end, but not really sure how it happens. Pluto and Uranus together, it's not really defined what they. I mean, it's just something very severe, heavy duty. Be crisis or sudden events, but it's opposing something. Legal loss, conflict, right? 12th house loss, 6th house conflict. Something very unusual or unique. Yeah, basically. Jupiter tying in there in Virgo. It's very lawyerific. Lawyerific. That's a good word. All right. Let's go to house 7. Lopez. I don't need to. What am I doing? I'm used to doing a search. Lopez. Jennifer Lopez. I always think about the South Park when Eric Cartman is singing like his Jennifer Lopez hand puppet, and he's like, tacos, tacos, burrito, burrito. Yeah, that was funny. So she has Chiron in the seventh whole sign house. It's in Venus's bounds, Aries domicile, and her relationships reflect this Chiron. Um, Ben Affleck is one. I think they got together twice, right? And it's part of a grand fire triangle, right? But yeah, it's definitely going to reflect on her relationships. They're very unique, often very publicized. Benefer is the what they're calling it, but this it's in fire signs, right? So it's not going to be unnoticed. It's just going to be very unique. Her relationships, not necessarily, they don't necessarily work out or anything like that, or not. I mean, we'd have to look at Mars and see what's going on there, but it's part of the Grand Trine, so definitely not bad. Um, but yeah, you know, is Ben Affleck, a wounded healer? I don't know, probably not, right? It's retrograde, so that's gonna cause delays and backwards movement, struggles, things of that nature. Um, mm, yeah, there's a wide opposition to Uranus and Jupiter. That probably makes sense of that somehow. Um, the Jupiter is good. The Uranus, that's this cause of, you know, troubles, sudden breakups, things of that nature, sudden events, accidents, and whatnot. All right, Frida Kahlo. Now, Frida Kahlo was married to, what's his name? The Mexican painter. Um, I'm just gonna pull up her. She's married to Diego Rivera. He was the mural paint. He was a socialist, communist mural painter. Won't fault him for that, but even though it's stupid. But yeah, what's on the descendant Aquarius, right? So that is clearly the indication of social awareness, right? Politics, social awareness, whether good or bad. I mean, that's not indicated by Aquarius. Aquarius is just thinking about society, politics, social awareness. Seventh house, Diego Rivera, Chiron, somebody very unique, not a wounded healer, right? He wasn't a healer. He wasn't wounded. He was a painter who slept around a lot. She was in love with him. She slept around a lot too, right? But it was unequal. Like the relationship was unequal. Um, Chiron, Aquarius, retrograde. They were both very free, Aquarius, in their relationship. And I think she just loved him way more than he loved her. Like he didn't really seem that bothered, but maybe I could be wrong, right? I don't know in detail. Um, Obviously we have this sixth house Mars and Uranus and South Node opposite sign in Cancer, and that's, you know, Mars and dignity is even in Jupiter's bounds, can still be harmful with the right opposition or right aspect. There's definitely that possibility. But the Chiron here, not really many aspects, just showing that essentially her partner is going to be very unique, one of a kind, right? Um, yeah. and then there's the retrograde. We have to see when that would have gone direct. Let me see here. 109, yeah, not in her lifetime. So it was always retrograde. So there's something always like backwards about it. Also indicating something from the past happening, or like karmic relationships, if you will, the retrograde, perhaps indicating like her and Diego were married in a past life. I'm not saying it was, I'm saying that's a potential. People freak out with my stance on past lives. They're like, "Oh, you don't believe in past." I didn't say I don't believe in past lives. I just don't believe in bullshit astrology where nothing can be validated and you're just making claims about past lives, right? Um, you know, there should be a caveat. There should be a disclaimer. We don't really know. If you're going to say something about past life, you have to say, "I don't really know, but it could be," right? I don't really know, but it could be. The retrograde could mean in a past life they were also lovers, her and Diego. But it's also, the Aquarius is like they were both sleeping around a lot, and they were both maybe not okay with it, but they did it anyway. So I think they were probably both jealous about each other, but they didn't stop either one of them. So anyway, that's that. All right, now we get another very interesting one. Very interesting. Grace Kelly. Now tell me how much of a wounded healer is this situation, right? Where she's got her North Node conjunct Chiron in the seventh, Mercury's, and who does Grace Kelly end up marrying? The Prince of Monaco. Is the Prince of Monaco a wounded healer archetype? Well, fuck off. I mean, it's like knock knock, anyone home? Come on. No. The answer is no. The answer is adamantly no. It's like and how much more like explicit can you get? It's like not just Chiron in the seventh, North Node plus Chiron in the seventh, separated by 1 degree, less than 1 degree, right? Less than 1 degree apart. Give me a break, right? This is the prince. There's only one Prince of Monaco. Well, I don't know how many. Maybe there's like brothers. Maybe there's 3 brothers. I don't know. Maybe there's more than one. But that's like how many people? It's like 1 in 8 billion is what we're talking about. That's what Chiron represents. One among everyone is really essentially what Chiron means. Somebody so unique that potentially, yeah, if it's badly aspected, they're going to be rejected. They're going to be wounded. They might have things that need healing, but that's not really the essence of it. The essence is uniqueness, right? So that's really important to understand about Chiron. This is the Prince of Monaco, not wounded healer. All right. We need to be clear about that. Astrology needs to be clear about that. This whole thing of like, as soon as Chiron's mentioned, wounded healing, like, shut up. That's not astrology. That's just bullshittery. This is like you're just saying like how dumb you are and how little you know about astrology. It's not just repetition. You can't do that. Look at a fucking chart. All right, I get a kick out of being like that. Yeah, I'm not sorry, but I do get a kick out of it. I do get a kick out of talking like that. All right, let's go to another wounded healer. I'm just kidding. Leonardo DiCaprio. Chiron in the seventh. So what do we know about Leonardo DiCaprio and his women? He likes women. He likes them young. Well, if Chiron is like I think it is tied to Aquarius, well, Aquarius rules the fifth house. Pretty straightforward there. Right? Chiron has a square to Saturn. And since the speeds are so close together, I just want to make sure that so it's applying, yes. Chiron squaring Saturn, applying. That's much more significant. This is not in good dignity, this Saturn. It's in Cancer, it's retrograde, it's in the 10th house. So does Leonardo DiCaprio have much public authority? I mean, he kind of seems like a joke when he's talking about like climate change, like from his big yacht, flying around, being an idiot. So no, I'd say probably not. And it's square the Chiron here. From a sign it's in poor dignity, from a sign that Saturn's also in poor dignity. So this is not great. Let's see. There's somebody who disapproves of his relationships. I'll say that. Parents. His parents his family will see his relationships and be like, nope, because it's the fourth lord. It's not in good dignity. It's square Chiron. Chiron's in the seventh. They're gonna see his relationships. They're gonna make, Leo, she could be your daughter, and she's your, girlfriend of the week or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making it up, but something like that. There's also an inconjunct from Chiron to Sun and Venus, right? And even though this Venus is combust, it's great for the Sun. The Sun loves, the Sun is very happy with Venus. It makes a very happy personality. That's why Sun Venus combinations, which I have, it really exalts the personality. Even though Venus itself, the nature of Venus, the house that rules, is suffers, right? The combustion, it becomes irritated. This is ascendant lord. Although you could also look to Saturn for his ascendant lord, although I probably wouldn't want to because not in good dignity here. But there's a square to the moon, which actually is not bad, although some people might say the poor dignity Saturn doesn't really matter. But this is a kind of mutual reception, a mixed reception, let's put it that way. Saturn is exalted in Libra, Venus is in domicile in Cancer. So this square has some potential benefits. How much? Not sure. Saturn Sun trine, that's pretty good generally, I would say. The trinal nature and the exactness of it. And even though Sun doesn't really have any dignity in Cancer, I still think that's going to help him out. Mars is in Scorpio, and that's quite good. That's dignifying the Sun and Venus. I'm getting too far afield here, but what I wanted to say here is that Sun in conjunct Chiron, even though it's not very exact, that's going to add a lot of uniqueness to him as a person, to the fundamental personality with the Sun. Yeah. I think Sun conjunct Venus and Scorpio is actually pretty successful because you're getting like the Scorpio depth and then like the Venus lightness and brightness. So it's kind of a nice combination. I think that's why, Gordon Ramsay, who was in the Sixth House, Kazemi, is so successful on TV. All right. Johnny Depp. This list is epic and it's taking like forever, but I think I'm gonna have to definitely section it out and people can just watch whatever section they want. Anyway, all right, Johnny Depp. Now we're in the eighth house. Um, Chiron. Chiron has an opposition to these Virgo planets. It's not exact, but it's there. It's in Pisces, and Chiron is also sextile the moon in the sixth in Capricorn, where it's not good, where it's not dignified. The moon's ruling the 12th. This indicates conflict, right? And then we're talking about other people's money, shared resources, his resources. What happened? What happened? Saturn the seventh. Oh, yeah. He went to court with Amber Heard, and it was all about I didn't even pay attention, but money was, I don't know if it was all about money, but money was certainly part of it. And he was awarded millions of dollars and he didn't take it, but that was the issue there, right? So some very unusual situation involving shared resources, probably a lot of secrets. I mean, Pisces, eighth house, there's probably a lot we don't even know about, right? But we see that Saturn's in the seventh. So Saturn's in the seventh in good dignity. It's in Mars's balance, but it's in domicile. So it's like, oh, is he gonna stay married forever? Obviously not, right? It's also square Mercury and Venus. It's also an aspect to this Jupiter in the ninth. which indicates some kind of lawyer. Lawyer is one indicator of that. Square is moon, conflict. Um, yeah. So I mean, Johnny Depp has a lot going for him, obviously, but he also has some challenges here, right? This Neptune and Scorpio square the ascendant, which is pretty tight. Definitely points to, along with the second house planets, some kind of addiction. I think he drinks a lot. I think he like buys ridiculous, expensive bottles of wine and just drinks them. But there's so many aspects here, like 13, 13, 13, 14. All the planets at a certain, like right around a single degree, will have a lot to do with each other. So this Chiron's tied into this Jupiter, this moon, and this Neptune, in very, unusual ways. It's a lot to sort of put it all together here, but I think one of the main things is that like, shared resources, and it's going to tie in with conflicts and things like that. As lovable as Johnny Depp appears to be, he also has, I've seen him in interviews where he's really a jackass. Like he's just like real jerk, kind of not very nice person. So, but I guess if you're really rich and famous, you can afford to be. Also his ascendant is tying in closely by 12, so 12, 13, 14. So all these are going to tie together. And that's good, right? But it's complicated as well. But definitely eighth house stuff, shared resources are going to be something very, unusual, unique about them. Yeah. Thought that was interesting with the court case, and I think that ties in here. With the water houses, it is difficult to know exactly what's going on because it's secret, right? We're never going to know everything. Now let's go to Knowles. Beyonce. Chiron in the eighth. Chiron in the eighth is 22 degrees, perfectly conjunct Pluto. So it's the opposite, opposing Moon, and then Neptune, and then exact with or Uranus, and then Neptune is also in conjunct. So it's basically a yod on this Chiron in the eighth. And so Venus is conjunct the ascendant exact in Jupiter's bounds. And the correlation here is her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, right? Because we're getting this Chiron applying to Pluto, also the ascendant, also her ascendant lord, her moon, Uranus, and Neptune, right? So it's all three outer planets and the moon, right? And then the eighth house. So Pluto is transformation. So there's clearly something about her identity involving Chiron, right? Neptune is imagination, movies, acting, drugs and alcohol. But I think in this case, just like something imagined, right? Moon relating to a core identity. It's also MC Lord in a really good bound, Jupiter's bounds. So we could look to Jupiter as well for that to see. That's in Libra in our first whole sign house. But Moon as well. Moon's in Scorpio, not in great bounds, but Jupiter's bounds, which is good. Moon conjunct Uranus, pretty radical. Definitely radical mind, radical thinking, radical. It's her second house, so it's relating to her voice, also her appearance, how she dresses herself. This is also, third house is expression. So we're getting a lot like first, second, third, right? Identity with the eighth house, something secret, hidden, powerful, transformational. Chiron, weird, unique, different. It's like, yeah, she has like this alter ego. She calls it Sasha Fierce. Fierce is a very like sort of eighth house kind of word, scorpionic, plutonic, right? So yeah. Um, that's all going on. Chiron is like this thing that's just very, very unique and different. One of a kind. Britney Spears. So Chiron in the eighth and Taurus, also Libra rising. Um, Chiron in conjunct Saturn. Saturn's conjunct Pluto, but it's exalted in Libra. Libra. So basically, this is Libra rising, but it's in Saturn's bound. So you could look to Saturn as the ascendant lord. Saturn is in Libra, it's exalted, it's in Jupiter's bounds. This is Pluto's Sirius and Venus's bounds. So Chiron's in Jupiter's bounds, Chiron's retrograde. Mm, really strong connection to Saturn. So that is her, shared resources, Saturn, father, right? Saturn ruling the fourth. Um, yeah. So there's some situation there, imbalance. The inconjunct is a one-sided relationship, one side dominating the other, right? In this case, the Chiron is in the superior inconjunct to Saturn. Saturn's ruling the Chiron would have a fifth house connection, but also Saturn does too. So yeah. Shared resources, father, fourth house, her Pluto, control, power. Um, I don't exactly like the, not that I don't like, but it confuses me a little bit that Chiron's in the eighth, but I guess, I mean, over Saturn. Um, I guess that indicates it's about her money. It's about her money. And then Saturn in the inferior role is sort of the underlying factor there, and that's her father, fourth lord. Moon is in the fifth. It's not really doing much. Um, Sun's conjunct Neptune. I don't know if that's related. Um, Nighttime chart. Saturn is her most malefic planet. Yeah. Fourth lord in the first. Conservatorship. It's in good dignity, this Saturn, but it's still nighttime planet or nighttime chart. And by those rules, it says Saturn's the most malefic, plus it's conjunct Pluto. So I mean that's pretty bad, right? And we're getting exact hit with Chiron. So something very unusual relating to the eighth house, her resources, shared resources, especially in Taurus, which is a very rich, wealthy sign. So we know what happened. So that's, I think, strongly correlated to this conjunction or this aspect. Saturn and Pluto in conjunct Chiron in the eighth, in Jupiter's bounds in Taurus. Alrighty. Uh, Jennifer Lawrence is next. Okay, Jennifer Lawrence. Jupiter. So Jupiter is definitely our ascendant lord. It's at the anaretic degree of Cancer where it's exalted in Saturn's bounds. So it's about to, um, it's about to lose dignity by exaltation, but it's about to move into its own bounds in Leo. So not bad, right? But anyway, uh, her ascendant lord is conjunct Chiron in the eighth house in Cancer. So what does she play? Um, Many different roles, but one of the main roles that she played was like that sexy blue X-Men, X-Woman, right? I don't even know the name where she transforms, but she's sexy, right? So it's clearly Jupiter, Chiron, Cancer, eighth house, right? And that's why she's perfect for that role. And then she played, the bow and arrow girl and the Katniss, whatever. Um, yeah. So that's also like an eighth house thing because it's like dark. power struggles, grit, determination, like death, and all that, a lot of eighth house themes, right? But she can play like these very unusual roles with Jupiter and Chiron, especially in the eighth house. It's going to be like, you know, similar themes, like the sexiness of a water sign, but combined in the eighth house, right? Jupiter exalted. It's her ascendant lord, so it's her. Um, um, Not to mention Venus is exactly trying the ascendant, so giving her a lot of beauty in Jupiter's bounds. So it's dignified. Um, it's dignified because of the Jupiter. It's relating, it's connecting. Yeah, anyway. And it's right around the MC descendant midpoint. So it's gonna tie into her career and her relationships, or her, relationships, personal relationships, or yeah. How people feel about her on a one-on-one basis. Popularity. Well, 11th house would be popularity, but yeah. Blue shapeshifter, sexy blue shapeshifter, essentially, was the point of that one. I guess there's Saturn opposing Saturn. Saturn's in really good dignity. Um, Here, it's a daytime chart, so anyway, yeah, Mars would be her most malefic. So anyway, yeah, let's keep going. All right. Let's go to ninth house, and we're gonna look at Hitler, everyone's favorite Nazi dictator. All right. Moon opposite Chiron, North Node Chiron. Chiron part of fortune. Um, Wounded, yeah. Healer, not so much. Not so much. Not really. Um, yeah. So this is a clear opposition. And one of the things that we can see here is that the South Node Moon, Jupiter, youth, opposite Chiron. What's Chiron? Chiron is something very unique and distinct. This opposition shows he's opposed to someone or something. What's he opposed to? What do you think Hitler would be against? Oh yeah, the Jewish race, or the Jewish people, however you want to put it, right? People get mad when you call Jews a race. Jews are not a race. They get so attached to that thing. Well, guess what? The Nazis thought they were a race. That was their whole thing. They were racist. So according to Hitler, Jews were a race. But whatever. I'm not going to argue that point. Fine. They're not a race. Whatever. He didn't like them, is the point, right? He was opposed to a certain group of people. He also didn't like gypsies. He also didn't like old people or sick people, or he didn't like a lot of people. Let's put it that way. He only liked some idealistic, idea of perfection, Aryan perfection or whatever. The Neptune, obsessed with this ideology tied to like the radical thinking. Anyway, yeah, that's what that is. He's in opposition. His belief system, his mind, heart, emotional, and Capricorn, not in good dignity, was opposed to the outsiders, the unique ones, the different ones, the Jews and the gypsies and the handicapped and the old and the sick and anyone he didn't like, right? Ninth house, philosophy, belief system. That's his belief system. He was opposed to them from his intellect and philosophy. The opposition is a relationship with others, a good relationship or a bad relationship. It doesn't really say. What it's not is Saturn. You just need to throw that in the trash. Or just no, it's not throw it in the trash. Just build upon it. It's not really enough for modern astrology. Let's go to Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts. So Chiron in Pisces in the ninth, opposite Pluto, Uranus in the third. Um, So let's see. What are the aspects here? There's a trine to Neptune, square moon. I'm trying to remember even like why I picked this chart because I believe it or not, like I do labor over the charts of like which ones to pick, and I try to find the relevant ones that I can use to make sense. Um, but then like I kind of forget why I chose them, so that's why I have the Wikipedia. But then it makes like, you know, all right. So one of the things about the ninth house is that the ninth house is a very lucky house, and it can represent like so many different things: adventure, travel, philosophy, religion, higher mind, college studies and all that. But it can also represent like a very lucky life full of lots of different things. And I think that's one of the things that about Julia Roberts. Um, so she had a lot of movies. Um, in addition to acting, she runs the production company Red Home Films. Publishing is another ninth house topic, for which she has served as an executive producer for various projects, as well as the first four films of the American Girl franchise. I've never even heard of the American Girl, like ever. So maybe that's a testament to its success. I don't know. She's acted on as a global ambassador for Lancome. She was the world's highest paid actress throughout the majority of the 90s. In the first half of the 2000s, she relieved then unprecedented fees of 20 million, 25 million for Aaron Brockovich, Mona Lisa Smile. Never even heard of that movie before. Um, she's worth 250 million. All right. So yeah, here's the thing. Chiron here is representing a very unique, adventurous path, especially it's tied to Neptune and it's tied to her moon. Her moon is her ascendant lord. So check this out. Um, when you look at Julia Roberts, what do you think about? Well, okay, you could say she's pretty, but okay. Her Uranus is exactly sextile her ascendant. So Uranus is influencing her face. Okay, like one of the things about Julia Roberts, you could say she's pretty, but what's really going on is that her face is unusual. She has an unusual face, and she does look a bit like an elf or an alien, right? And that's Uranus in Virgo, exactly sextile the ascendant, the degree of the ascendant. Any planet that is the same degree of the ascendant, no matter what house it's in, will influence the ascendant, meaning they'll influence the face. Also, look at the nodes, exactly at the degree of the ascendant. Uranus, exactly. Now, what's the ascendant lord? The ascendant lord is Moon. Moon is in the second, so that's great for acting. Out of sign conjunction to Neptune, but also trine. I'm sorry, Jupiter. Jupiter, but then a square to Neptune, which is also Neptune is Scorpio. And Neptune in Scorpio is really nice for women because it makes them beautiful and sexy, right? Neptune in any water sign would do that, right? But we get the squared, we get the contact, not a great contact, but it's contact nonetheless. And it's not exact, but from Neptune and Scorpio, so that's adding to her beauty because moons are ascendant lord. Um, and then we're also getting the inconjunct Chiron. So Chiron also is influencing our ascendant lord, which is influencing the way she looks and her face, right? So yeah, so it's Uranian, Neptunian, Chironian face. That's what we're seeing. In water signs, I mean, Chiron's in Pisces, Neptune's in Scorpio. Uranus is in Virgo, but definitely bringing in those weird, strange elements. And then Chiron in the ninth is indicating a very adventurous life that's completely unique, right? It's like she's doing different things. Doesn't really say much for her success, but the ninth house is a lucky house, and it's pretty much trying the ascendant too. So definitely influencing her as a person as well. But definitely the looks are a huge part of that. All right. Michael Jordan. Chiron in the ninth. 10th whole sign house, but Ninth quadrant, ninth whole sign. Um, so his MC is in Pisces and Mars is Mars bounds. Jupiter also in Pisces. And so one thing about Pisces is that sometimes, and this is one of the things people misunderstand about Pisces, sometimes Pisces is very physical. I've seen it. It can be physical. It can be, it can represent the, Pisces represents the feet, right? What was he famous for? Oh yeah, Air Jordans, right? Jupiter is the thighs. So Jupiter in Pisces is all about the legs. And what did Mike do? He flew. Mike was the first man to, not maybe not the first man, but he flew in the basketball court. He could fly. And Chiron is influencing that, making it very unique. But there's probably something. Let's look up his chart. So, in addition to that, we're going to see a very diverse career full of twists and turns. I mean, we already know, like he played baseball, I think he played golf even. His basketball career was on and off. Like he retired and then went back to it. He's equally known for his basketball as well as his shoes, which are still popular to this day. Yeah, so like this ninth house, and then like he did like business. I can't read all this, so I'm just like kind of reminding myself. It'll take too long. But that's the ninth house. The ninth house is very lucky and it changes a lot. And so it describes a very adventurous life. Adventure is one of the things, the topics of the ninth house. And it's mutable, essentially, like if you relate it to the ninth sign, Sagittarius. So there's going to be a lot of changes with when you have like ninth house planets. Um, yeah, I mean, this is just ridiculous, but obviously, like consider the greatest basketball of all time. It's not really too much of a controversial statement. Um, but he did all sorts of stuff, is what I'm trying to say, and it was very, very unique. Um, yeah, very adventurous life that's capable of a whole bunch of stuff. And so this is the aspects, and then so okay, part of fortune, moon. Okay, here's the other thing. He was rejected by his coach at a young age. Coach, ninth house. And that fueled, same degree as the Mars in the second house, fueled his drive, also his moon. This emotional connecting his moon and his Mars. Second house would be physicality, right? Like even the muscles can be a second house topic, right? And with Mars and Leo, that's like really like tied to this wounded rejection by his coach, right? That's going to really fuel him to, because Leo is all about the ego. If you want to get Leo motivated, wound their ego, right? Especially Mars and Leo. It's like you'll see them, move mountains just to defend them, to boost their ego, right? So that's really what one of his huge motivations, and it also hurt his feelings really bad. Square, moon square Chiron, rejection, right? It's just Pisces alone. Pisces is so embracing, accepting, that wouldn't matter, but it's like tied to this moon and Leo, or sorry, Mars and Leo, and the moon, square the moon. So it's like really getting to him. The rejection by the coach, ninth house, Pisces. Anyway, I think he was bullied, as a kid too. I don't know if that's really relates to that, but anyway. Let's go to Bernie Sanders. Bernie, Pluto, Chiron, ninth house. So what do we know about Bernie Sanders besides the fact that he wants to make the biggest government ever and take away half our money while saying, "Oh, the rich need to pay their fair share." Like, fuck the rich. I want to keep my money, Bernie. Like, do you not understand that? Like, that's way more important to me than having the billionaires pay like a little more money in tax dollars. I don't really give a shit. Like, fuck that. Like, I want to keep my money. Don't take half my money and be like, the rich need to pay their fair share. Like, it's just such bullshittery. Like, fuck off. But anyway, that's the ninth house, Chiron. Like, it's so he believes in weird shit and he believes it obsessively. Pluto, right? It's like he's obsessed with his weird socialist communist beliefs that just like suck. And he's a and I mean, you know, not to be too hard on the man. I mean, he's a fellow Virgo. I mean, I'm a Virgo moon, but I mean he can understand it. He's gonna be very critical of everything. But it's Neptune. He's got Sun, North Node, Neptune, so he's not very reliable, dude. He's not. He's flaky. Once again, I'm asking for your patronage, whatever. You're just gonna sell everyone out like you always do. Just shut up, Bernie. You're a sellout. You're a millionaire yourself. And yeah, oh, he earned it. But let's rail on the billionaires. It's all just dumb. It's really dumb. It's tied to his obsessive philosophy is tied, semi-square Jupiter, right? So bringing in that Jupiter's in Gemini, so it's not really high-minded. Chiron tying into the third house of intellect, but ninth, yeah. And then ninth is ruled by the sun with the north node and Neptune, right? So it's the liberal. The Neptune is the liberal communism, the expansiveness, right? But the Virgo is, I mean, Neptune and Virgo, I don't know. Neptune is domiciled in Pisces, but whatever. South node Pisces very little. But the Neptune is not really, it's just too expansive. It's not good for a politician. It's like they can just lie and imagine and make believe situations. It's like, why don't you just like go be an artist or something? Of course, he's too obsessed with his ideology to do that. This Venus is really strong, very strong, and that's 11th house, politics, friends, groups, networks. So that's that. And so is it, and look at this Mars stationary in Aries in Mars domicile, exactly, almost exactly opposite Venus. So there's a lot really going on here. Two very opposing sides, but that's a stretch too far. But it's really interesting that that's his ascendant lord. So he is quite strong, but it's like he's really he really functions with opposition. He's very oppositional, right? Because these two sides are not seeing each other. Mars is very strong in Aries, in Mars's bounds, stationary. Venus is very strong. They're just like two opposing things, and they're not really meeting. They don't even need each other. So it's just like opposition. He's very oppositional. Sly Stallone. All right. Chiron in the 10th. Now, this shows a very unusual career. And one of the most unique things about Sylvester Stallone is his career, especially how it got started. He wrote the script for Rocky. He was interested in acting. He was talented, or I don't know. He was trying to be an actor, but he wrote the script for Rocky, and then he took it to the producers or whatever, directors, I don't know who, Hollywood executives, and they're like, okay, we like the script, we'll buy it from you, and so long, see ya. And he's like, nope, I got to be the star, I got to be in the movie, or else nothing, no deal, right? No dice. And so they reluctantly agreed to it, probably after some negotiations or whatever, trying to get the best, trying to not do it, but they did. And yeah, the rest was history, right? Rocky. Um, so his Chiron, this is the 10th house, obviously. Is playing a big role. I mean, of course, Moon, Jupiter, exactly, straddling the MC, that's huge. But the Chiron shows a very unusual career, public image. And he is like he's pretty unique, pretty like he not only acts in movies, he writes them, directs them, produces them. I don't know if he does all that, but he does like all the, he's behind the scenes, he's in the scenes, he's through the scenes, he's hiding behind the scenes. I don't know. He's all over the scenes. Anyway, a lot of eighth house activity. And then Pluto, Mercury, Leo, eighth house. That's really interesting. Um, Powerful hands, rocky. Anyway. Um, Chiron would be tied to the second house if you accept that ruling. But anyway, either way, public, very unusual public career. Yeah. Considering all the movies he's done, yeah, definitely. Stand out. Unique, one of a kind. David Bowie. No, another one, right? So Chiron is square Saturn. That seems like a pretty intense square. Uh Saturn is ruling the 11th and 12th. 11, oh, sorry, 10th, 12th and first house. How about that? In the seventh house, junk Pluto, and it is square Chiron. Um, so Saturn is in Saturn's bounds, but the square to Chiron makes him extremely unique, and it's the 10th whole sign house, although ninth quadrant. So this is somewhat going to give him, being the ninth quadrant, it's going to tie in the ninth house significations, which mean philosophy, belief, but also like adventure, like just very unique, adventurous life, which he definitely had. But also just like the public appearance is going to be something very unique and powerful, scorpionic. Jupiter's bounds here, so that's nice. Um, Boosting his career and public image. Chiron Saturn is going to be difficult. There's going to be some challenges. Um, and perhaps related to marriage, partnership, whatnot. Um, no, I can't remember exactly if I found something or not or what. I mean, the general signification is there, but like if we look and try to find something in his life that would reflect that, we probably could find it. Um, I'm just not. I can't. Let's go to his marriage thing, and we'll see if there's something that sticks out. One thing we can say is like the ninth quadrant influence gives him that incredibly varied, adventurous, unique life. Um, See, he was also an actor. He was in movies. Um, I know there was some like things about him being gay or bi, but he didn't want to go down that route. Okay, so his wife is Iman. Obviously, there's some. It's a biracial couple, so that's chironic. Um, Married his first wife, Mary Angela Barnett. Um, his first his first son was his first son was first known as Zoe Bowie or Zowie Bowie. Um, they had an open marriage and dated other people. That's very much the Saturn square Chiron. It's not Saturnian, but it is with the square Chiron. So there's a lot of relationship stuff that's weird and different and unique, right? Marriage of convenience. We got married, so I could get a permit to work. There was also the gay stuff that he had to deal with, which he wasn't really gay or not fully gay or whatever. Um, Before we got married, I'm not really in love with you, and I thought that's probably a good thing, she said. Living with her is like living with a blowtorch. Okay. They divorced. Um, then he married Iman. And the the two were able to maintain separate identities during their marriage. Okay. Other relationships, and we could probably just keep going on. Sexuality, that's also chironic, right? Spirituality and religion would also tie into it because ninth quadrant. But I'm not going to get too into that. It's just creating that very unusual quality and the difficulty around relationships, especially around very strange or unusual relationships that are tied into the public. The public knows about them because 10th house, right? um, yeah. I mean, the main thing is that square with Saturn, which is ascendant lord. And Saturn, we could also talk about that, like just him as a person with the square to Chiron makes him very unique, very individual, right? Very one of a kind, which he was. But let's move on. Um, Monroe, Maryland. Also, so like Chiron at 0 degrees Aries, 0 degrees Taurus in Venus's bounds. So very much ruled by Venus, conjunct Venus out of sign. So it's actually dignifying this Chiron, but it's at conjunct the MC, right? So this Chiron would show up in her career. I mean, you can't. There's no way around that. Like you can't just be like, no, it's not there or something. I don't know. But was her career a wounded healer career? Like was she going around like healing the sick? Um, was her career around getting wounded? I don't think so. It was a very unique career, is what it was. She was in movies, she was a model, nude model, right? I mean, just public everything, right? Public icon. She did everything. She even like was like opened her own movie studio and like was her own boss and like she just so unique, so original, just everything, right? Chiron is just not not fitting into a box at all, right? And people live on like prefab meals these days, so they think everything should be prefab. Everything's like candy coated, and like you go on the internet, and everything's like just bow tie wrap, you know, pre-digested garbage, right? Chiron it defies that. Chiron's like, no, that's not it at all. You know, Chiron is like a raw ingredient that you picked from the dirt, and it's just gonna be weird and might have a bug on it, and might have some, brown spots and whatnot. I don't know, but it's gonna be unique. It's gonna be its own thing. And there's also a biseptile to the ascendant with Chiron, so there's something very the septiles are unique aspects, but it seems pretty strong here. Um, but yeah, I mean, this Chiron, it just shows the incredible uniqueness of her career, that it's not going to be defined by anything prefab, um, anything, you know, prepackaged, bubble wrapped, bow tied, um, spray painted, candy coated, anything. It's going to be raw. It's going to be real. It's going to be authentic. It's going to be unique. And yeah, wounds and healing could be a part of it, but that's not really indicated here. What's indicated, we would have to look to other places, eighth house and whatnot. Chiron's just saying it's weird, it's unique, it's different, it's distinct, it's its own thing. And no, you cannot put a label on it. You can't put it in a box. It's going to defy all your definitions, all your easy definitions. Right? People love that shit. They're just like, how can we, put it in a neat little box and, tie it up? You can't. Not with Chiron. That's why Chiron does not like your wounded healer labels. It's like, fuck that. I'm not wounded healer. I'm going to be all kinds of stuff. Elon Musk, wounded healer. No. I don't think so. This is in his 10th house. So if you're going to read it, you say, okay, you're going to have a career as a Chiron. Oh, what's Chiron? Wounded healer. Elon Musk. You're going to be a wounded healer when you grow up. Telling that to Elon Musk before he discovered, his path, right? You're going to be a wounded healer. Chiron in the 10th whole sign house, right? Oh, it's in the 9th. Oh, you're going to believe in wounded healer stuff, right? You're going to believe in Chiron things. Maybe you'll be a shaman, right? Maybe you go around wounded healing people. I don't know. It's square his ascendant, so it's very strongly connecting with this Mercury and his ascendant. So yeah, his looks, it's going to affect his looks, but more importantly, it's making him extremely distinct and unique, undefinable, not put in a boxable, right? Not bow tie wrappable, not candy coatable. All right. Mercury on the ascendant. He's a smart guy. Mercury's in Mercury's bounds. Ascendant is in Mercury's bounds. So this Mercury is strong. It's good. And it's square Chiron. Chiron is also trying the node by 2 degrees, but applying. So yeah, Chiron's in the 10th, whole sign house, in Mercury's bounds, square Mercury. So this is all about unique thinking. This is all about his mental acuity or whatever. Is that the right word? Yeah, mental original thinking. It's extremely original thinking. It's tied into this North Node, Mars, 8th house stuff. And Mars is in Mars bounds. And this is great for everything he does, electric cars and like digging tunnels underground and flying to Mars and asteroids and aliens and putting stuff in people's brains, making robots and AI and all that stuff, right? Flying to Mars, spaceships, satellites, computer chips, right? All that stuff. He's weird man, but very, I like him. Cool guy. Anyway, not that that matters. We're just talking about astrology. All right. I don't like the transhumanist stuff, but yeah. Anyway, Albert Einstein. We're on to the 11th house, and so Neptune, Chiron, Pluto, right? 11th house. So yeah, very original thinking. 11th house has to do with groups, networks, but also like networks. Like what is a computer? It's a bunch of networks, right? So it's all about that abstract thinking, that 11 prime number, making like that machine that's brilliant and genius. Neptune, imagination, Chiron, original thinking. Taurus, something, like it's gonna be more grounded, practical, right? Scientific. Earth signs, right? Taurus is not necessarily scientific, but it is earthy, and that lends itself to practicality. Get the Pluto trine Mars. His ideas were used to make the atomic bomb, right? But as far as theories go, Neptune, 11th house, Chiron, Jupiter and Aquarius, very original thinking. Pluto, very deep, powerful, research oriented, scientific. Pluto can be very scientific. Trining this Mars is very, very strong and exalted in Mars's own bounds. That's the 10th whole sign house. But it's the 11th cusp. Yeah. He's got his MC in Jupiter in Jupiter's sign, Jupiter, right? 9th house, so things he studied is his main career, right? Physics. And then Jupiter's in the 8th whole sign out, 9th quadrant. So combining 8th and 9th significations, very deep research, and then like philosophy, belief, stuff like that. Aquarius, the abstract relating to the 11th house topics. He was also very socially concerned, which is an 11th house topic. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. Chiron also relating to the Aquarian house. I hope I'm making sense to you and not just to me, because I know it makes sense to me, but like I think sometimes people don't understand everything that I'm trying to convey. I know that because online sometimes I'll write things and people are like committed to misunderstanding me. And I'm like trying to explain myself and they're like, nope, we I don't want to understand what you're saying. I want to misunderstand what you're saying. So it's weird. Anyway. Um, Victoria Beckham, Spice Girls. Okay, so spicy Aries, Sun, Chiron, um, Mercury, in Mars's bounds. So Chiron's Mars ruled, right? Daytime chart. Mars is the out of sec malefic, but it's conjunct Saturn in the 12th. So something very foreign, exotic creativity, but let's see here. Chiron is aspecting the nodes in a good way, sextile and trine. And it's not hitting any other planets besides the nodes, and Mercury and the Sun. Sun is her second lord, so definitely relating to her singing, her appearance, her voice, um, her fame. It's exalted, right? Her notoriety, public appearance. It's not her MC, but it is her 10th whole sign house, right? This MC is ridiculous. It's got Jupiter and Venus in Venus's bounds, or Venus is exalted, Jupiter is domicile. So it's like hugely dignifying her career, right? And her career is in the 9th house. So it's like 9th whole sign house. So it's like a career of adventure, right? I don't think she's very religious. Like I could be wrong, but and she might be, you know, like into a foreign exotic religion, something very like, you know, like Hinduism or something like that. I don't know. Um, but it's more indicative of a very adventurous life, a very lucky, because it's trying the ascendant, um, very lucky, adventurous, abundantly successful, beautiful life. It's like, I mean, career anyway, right? There could be other things that could be bad, you know, difficult, challenging. I'm sure there are. Neptune square. So there's something. Well, I mean, Neptune is domicile in Pisces anyway, but could be issues there. But anyway, Chiron in the 10th just gives, you know, especially so it's 11th quadrant, and that's also significant considering Spice Girls, right? But Aries is spicy. Aries, I mean, Aries is a spicy sign, so it's like interesting, right? And then again, like so Chiron, there's no bad aspects to Chiron. It's just all about her being extremely unique and spicy in the Spice Girls band. Yeah, second house, right? Appearances and voice, singing. Mercury is the third whole sign house, even though it's the fourth lord. But yeah, youth, fourth lord in the 10th, fame during youth. Okay. Meghan Markle. Where is she? Meghan Duchess of York, Sussex. Duchess of Sussex. Chiron in the 11th. Yeah, so we're on the 11th anyway. Some of them straddle both, obviously, but yeah. Chiron the 11th. All right. I'm gonna have to pause it for just 1 second. I'm back. Let me share my screen. Okay. So there's a lot going on here. It's 11th house, Chiron, Taurus, in conjunct Neptune, Pluto, and widely opposing Uranus stationary. So there's, let me pull up her Wikipedia because it's a little too much to do on my own from memory. No, sorry. Interestingly enough, I don't recall her being this brown. I know her mother is she's half black, her mother's black, but in real life she doesn't seem to be this dark. So I think they chose a picture of her to make her look more black than she is. Um, playing into the whole thing of like, her leaving with was it Harry, the royal family. Anyway, she was born and raised in California. She started acting. She played Rachel Zane for 7 seasons in the American TV legal drama Suits. So she was already famous somewhat. She also developed a social media presence, which included the TIG, a lifestyle blog. So that's 11th house. Um, during the TIG period, Megan became involved in charity work, primarily on women's issues and social justice. That's also 11th house. She was married to the American film producer Tim Engelson until their divorce in 2014. She retired from acting upon her marriage to Prince Harry. She became known as the Duchess of Sussex. They have 2 children. They stepped down as working royals, moved to Meghan's native Southern California, and launched Archwell Inc., a Beverly Hills-based mix of for-profit and not-for-profit charitable business organizations. Now that feels like 11 when it's nonprofit. I think that's 11th house because it's about like a group or a network. She sat with Oprah, with Meghan and Harry. Much publicized American television interview with her husband and Oprah Winfrey. She released The Bench, a picture book for her children, and launched a podcast, Archetypes. They filmed Harry and Meghan Netflix docuseries, which released in December 2022. So here's what I think. So 11th house has a lot to do with career success and also popularity, right? It's a very public house, but it's how it's not just your public image, it's how much friends you have, how popular you are, right? And so with Chiron here, it gives some question or some speculation as to how people are perceiving her, whether good or bad. It's going to be unique, right? She's obviously going to have her fans. There's relationship to Neptune in the 6th, so like the TV show, regular series and regular podcasts, things of that nature, especially with Neptune, Sag. It's tied into that, but not necessarily in a great way because of the inconjunct, even though it's exact. Then Uranus, political, social issues, opposite Chiron here in the 11th, so not-for-profit organizations, groups, networks, right? And then 5th house relates to the children. Pluto in the 4th would talk about something about her parents or upbringing. It's sextile the Neptune, so it's like that would support that, but also perhaps somehow not great for popularity, and her popularity is kind of in question. I mean, of course, being a royal automatically grants you like an audience, right? But she's not like the most favorite person, right? People were annoyed by her. They thought she complained a lot. She wasn't, yeah. I mean, I think you probably understand that, right? Like, I mean, if you consider Mars in poor dignity in the 12th quadrant, first whole sign house, but it's in Cancer in the 12th house of hidden enemies. I don't like that term, but I think what it represents is, and it's not the most malefic planet because it's a nighttime chart, but still, subconscious. It's the person's own subconscious being projected out and reflecting back at them, right? So planets in the 12th can cause a person to, depends on what planets, people to not like them because of the way they present themselves. And here there's Mars and Cancer. It's a lack of dignity. It's in the first whole sign house, but it's in the 12th quadrant. So there's some subconscious, unconscious activity there that's less than dignified. Of course, her ascendant is in Jupiter, Cancer, so that's quite good. And I'm going a bit afield here, but let's see. Chiron's ruling the 8th. Well, Aquarius is Aquarius, so by my association, that's bringing in the 8th house significations to the 11th house. So that's not great because that's sort of like crisis, death and rebirth. And so like 8th house themes in 11th can make people not like her very much. right? Um, but it's also impacting her, fourth, fifth, and sixth house. So her home, right? Very unusual, right? To marry a prince, that's for sure. Her children, she had children with a prince. That's quite unusual, and Chiron, Uranus both indicate that. Something very unique and shocking. Hope her kids are okay with this Scorpio. I mean, stationary is quite good usually, so that's dignifying it, I think. And then sixth house, her daily routine. This girl does not have a daily routine, or if her daily routine is anything, it's full of, you know, podcasts and TV and imagination stuff. It's going to be very Neptunian in Sag, right? Retrograde. But yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot more I could pull out, but it's difficult when there's so much. So it's like kind of just do like a brief, obvious pinpointing of what's going on. South Node in the seventh does not bode well for her relationship. Let me put it that way. Also, Aquarius. How old is she? 1981. She's getting. Yeah, that's iffy. North Node is in the second whole sign house. Well, so that would be if they remain together. That's why, because North Node is in the second whole sign house, even though it's first sign, and Jupiter. So she's concerned about security and wealth. But I mean, I'm sure she could walk away with a lot of money if she wanted to. But it does not bode well for relationships. South Node in the seventh, all alone like that. Mercury's here in the first with the North Node. Although North Node is, well, that's the balance ruler. No, to Saturn. Um, Saturn, well, Saturn's in good dignity. Saturn's exalted, its own bounds. So perhaps in conjunct Jupiter and Moon. We'll see. Um, yeah, still up for debate. Still undecided. What am I doing? Let's move on. Good and bad, her relationships. Uh, last of the 11th, we got. Oh, I didn't put this one in. Jack Nicholson. He's been in a lot of movies. Um, in my mind, the most well-known role is when he's like in The Shining, when he's like, probably because it's a meme, when he's like breaking the bathroom door down and being all psycho, crazy. But he's got South Node Chiron. So Chiron should, in the 11th house in Gemini. So Chiron should indicate his first half of his life should be extremely chironic, right? Unusual, different, um, misfit, outcast, right? And he plays these kind of roles, especially 11th house, social things. Like, let me pull up his, because I think it's pretty, I think they talked about that in the Wikipedia. He's an American retired actor and filmmaker, so he's retired, which is interesting. Nicholson is widely regarded as one of the greatest actors of the 20th century, decade career, numerous accolades, blah, blah, blah. In many of his films, he played rebels against the social structure. So that's really important. Rebels against the social structure. That is 11th house, Chiron, Gemini, right? 11th house deals with social issues. Chiron is going to be the thing that doesn't fit in, the thing that's unique. So he's choosing roles and fitting in roles that are supported by his chart. It's not separate. Yeah, just because they're an actor, it doesn't mean they can play any role that comes their way. I don't think it ever goes that way. It's like actors are fit to the roles because their personality is suited for that role, right? So he plays rebels and outcasts, social misfits, and then very expressive ones, Gemini, right? See what aspects. Series in the seventh. And It's a thing, not a big thing. It's a thing, a minor thing. There's no real aspects except to South Node Chiron, right? Gemini, Mars, Mars is bound. Anyway, Mars is exactly trying the ascendant, so he's going to be appearing very Martian. Mars Sag. Um, you know, all the other significations. Chiron might tie into the seventh house, so this is pretty good for popularity. And what else? What the other thing that this would indicate is that he's going to have a very select fan base, a very unique fan base where, you know, unusual, um, unusual fans and very selective fans. I don't think that's, it doesn't sound very accurate, in fact, because he's got a lot of fans, but yeah, he probably tracks some very unusual fans too. Let's put it that way. I don't know, but I'm just putting the archetype together. But Gemini also is a very social planet, social sign, right? So attracting a lot of media, I don't know, expression. Scratch the media, just expression. Very expressive combination. Anyway, let's move on. Chris Brown. Maybe. These are just I'm in the wrong thing. So Chris Brown, it's connected. Chiron's in Cancer connected to Mars in Cancer within the Mars bounds. Opposite Uranus, right? 11th, but this is actually 12th, 12th whole sign house, right? Um, Chris Brown was involved in some bad stuff. Singer, songwriter, dancer, regarded as one of the most prominent artists in R&B music. Um, let's see. Uh, Brown received much media after pleading guilty to felony assault of his then girlfriend, singer Rihanna, who sentenced to 5 years in probation. Okay. Um, I mean, that pretty much explains it. So what about the Chiron? Well, the Mars in Cancer explains that, right? So Mars in bounds, but it's in Cancer. So it's strong and weak, right? So it has no dignity, but it has some strength at the same time, and it does what it wants. It's in its own bounds. It's conjunct Chiron, opposite Uranus. So like that's explosive opposition, right? Mars, Uranus, like that's fighting, especially in Cancer. What about Chiron? Well, Chiron, again, okay, so if Chiron is tied to Uranus or Aquarius, then it is ruling the seventh or one of the rulers of the seventh, tying in seventh house significations in the 12th. So hidden, hidden places, secret, hiding, hitting and hiding, hitting Rihanna, hiding, hiding in secret. Cancer. Cancer's water sign, water house. Right? Trying the North Node. Um, Chiron is making it. So who did he hit? Well, he hit one of the biggest stars in the world, right? Rihanna. So it's bringing in something very unique and unusual in there. Um, Rihanna, on the other hand, has Aries rising, Libra descendant, Venus, the seventh lord in the first, in poor dignity, right? So it's fitting for her too, not the justification, but her chart does kind of point to that. Um, What else? This is also, talking about his creativity. Like, it is 11th and dancing. This is dancing as well, right? Because Mars very physical. Mars rules the body in a generic way. I don't mean generic. Mars is physicality, right? In the 12th house, Mars becomes very artistic. So this means physical artistry. So dance, right? So Chiron is making him a very unique dancer, a very unusual dancer. That's, probably, you know, he's probably very sexual in his dancing, but very unique and unusual as well. And explosive, Uranus, fifth house entertainment. All right. Jared Leto. All right. Jared Leto, 12th whole sign house, Mars in Aries, Jupiter's bounds. Pretty much conjunct the midpoint of the ascendant midheaven, right? And this Mars ruling the 12th whole sign house. In the 11th quadrant, but in the 7th. Um, but it's directly opposite Pluto, and then so widely conjunct Chiron. And so, I mean, he's been in a lot of roles, but the main role that I think about him is the Joker. So we got this very strong Mars in Aries, 0 degrees, opposite Pluto, conjunct Chiron. And the Chiron brings in that fantasy, the something unusual, something that's just completely unique unto itself. Like any superhero or any made up creature or you know, comic book character, X-Men or X-Woman or all this stuff, all this fantasy stuff that's Chiron, right? And so here we're seeing in the 12th whole sign house movies, 11th, you could say, you could make a case for that as well, but 12th whole sign. And then, the very prominent Mars and Pluto, which is dark and heavy and violent and, powerful and strong and unusual and strange, right? Chiron's in Venus's bounds, so that kind of adds another dimension, bring in some Venusian quality. Um, Chiron, tied to Aquarius, North Node in Aquarius, MC, in Aquarius, 10th whole sign house, Venus, Venus in Aquarius, Venus is the ascendant lord. Right. What else? What are the aspects? Uh Septile to Saturn. That's not really going to be relevant. Mars is exactly sextile Saturn. That's interesting. Saturn's in the first. Not bad dignity. Gemini is fine. It's retrograde. That might cause delays for him, but it's out of sign, so it's interesting. But anyway, yeah. He can play very unusual roles with this combination, very unusual, powerful roles like the Joker. But there's probably other roles I don't really know. Could pull up his Wikipedia, but let's see. He's recognized for his musicianship and eccentric stage persona. That's the Mars Chiron opposite Pluto. It's going to make him very eccentric. As frontman of the rock band 30 Seconds to... Okay. I had no idea. I didn't know he's a musician. No idea. Starting in the television series My So-Called Life. How to Make an American Quilt. Okay, he was in Fight Club. I didn't know he's in that. American Psycho. So he's been in a lot of movies. Um, Played a trans woman, Dallas Buyers Club. So he's going to play all these very unique roles. And he's going to be a powerful stage performer. 11th house band, right? Chiron, Mars, Pluto. Unique. Not so much wounded healer. Not really. Paul McCartney. I don't think any of these guys are wounded healers, by the way. Some of them might be a little wounded, but yeah. Moon, Chiron, Leo, Mars, Pluto. 11th house. 12th whole sign house. 12th whole sign, 11th quadrant. So the band, we could say the Beatles. Beatles are quite chironic. Why? Because they're just completely unique, one of a kind, right? The Bugs. Moon is the 11th lord, so that's furthering that. But 12th house is highly creative, especially in Leo, right? Mars is the third lord, so for skills of the hands with Pluto. Also transformed him. He holds the guitar backwards, but excellent guitar player. Popularity. Moon's ruling his creative popularity in the band as well, career success, and then it's very chironic. Very unusual creativity. I mean, like the Beatles songs broke barriers, right? And he was the main instigator of that. And that's not in part due to Chiron. Not in part. I think it is in part due to Chiron. Very much so. It's tied to his moon in Leo. So it's a very creative moon. Leo is a very creative sign, and the 12th house is a very creative house. I mean, of course, he's got a lot of other things going on that support it, but Chiron is definitely making his music very unusual. I mean, Neptune conjunct the ascendant, that's great for artistry. Look at the aspects here. So Chiron is semi-square Neptune, also adding to the, very unusual creativity, which for the time it was, right? Like the Beatles didn't become famous because they were just doing what everyone else was doing, and that's really important. Chiron pushes you to be just completely unique and independent, right? Moving you towards Uranus. It's that bridge from Saturn to Uranus, from the status quo, which is Saturn, which is everyone, like boring masses, everyone parroting everyone else, which everyone loves to do. Everyone just loves to be safe and secure in their little safe zone, just repeating the same bullshit that everyone else is repeating. But Chiron's like, okay, let's go from there into Uranus, where we're going to be unique, right? That's Chiron's role. And so he's learning how to be completely independent and unique. And great job. The Beatles. Now they're just like they're not derivative, but there's so much derivations from them they almost sound derivative based on the music that they inspired, which was very much like their music. So it's just, it's like the trailblazers leave a wake of repetition and parroters, so it's they lose their originality, over time. Because it sounds like everyone else. Right. Now the Beatles sound is not unique because of that reason, but it was unique at the time. And that's partly to do with Chiron, conjunct the moon. All right. Michael Jackson, and this is the final one. Chiron, deep in the 12th in Aquarius. Very comfortable in Aquarius, right? In my opinion. Saturn, Uranus. Those are the two significations. Just like let's just put the mythology on the back burner for now. Let's use like the hard facts. Chiron's a weird rock in space floating in between Saturn and Uranus. That's enough, right? Do we really need anything else? Not really. It's an exact sextile to Saturn and MC. Saturn is exactly conjunct as MC. He's the king of pop. Like he's an authority, right? Um, day chart or night chart? Difficult to say. It's a toss up. I don't know. I'm not going to figure it out here. So anyway, Saturn, it's on the MC. He's an authority for sure. Chiron, he's a very unique authority because anything that's going to touch the exact degree is going to have everything to do with it, right? With his MC, his career, and his Saturn. Saturn is ruling the 11th and 12th. So his creativity and career success, groups, networks, friends, popularity. And yeah, so Saturn is ruling Chiron. So Chiron probably also ruling itself here in Aquarius, but yeah, definitely dignified by Saturn. So that's not a bad Chiron, except that we do have an opposition with Venus and Mercury. Venus mostly. Venus ruling the 8th, that's the 8th lord, and the 3rd lord. So there, and 8th lord's in the 6th, opposite Chiron. We know that did not end well, right? Doctor giving him shitloads of prescription drugs, and he died. But let's see. This could also point to legal battles, conflicts of different kinds, and whatnot. But it's also going to greatly influence his creativity, his career success. Right, Saturn ruling the 11th and 12th. So it's tying into the 10th and 11th, 12th houses. Very strongly influencing his career success, and creativity. Opposite Venus, 6th house. The writing of his music as well. And yeah, the 8th and the 3rd. So yeah, the intellect, and it could have something to do with yeah, there's the square to Mars with his mental health as well. He was very weird about his his privacy. I mean, obviously he was like super duper famous, but like his kids and his privacy and all that. So that's like probably something to do with Chiron in Aquarius, which is a very mental sign in the 12th house of the subconscious. So he's like there's some subconscious fear, I think, coming from this combination where he feels he needs to hide, right? In privacy. 12th house. Chiron can bring a lot of fear. It's that Saturnian quality. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to go too far into it. And it's probably taking long enough. So I'm gonna end it here. But yeah, I mean, that's just like trying to really drive it home how Chiron shows up in real life instead of what I don't like is taking the theoretical meaning and forcing it on a chart when it doesn't fit. It's like shoehorning it. It's like you're supposed to be a size 8 shoe, but even if your feet are like size 10, we're just gonna squeeze it the fuck in there and like jam it in, right? If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Like stop trying to force this idea that Chiron's a wounded healer when it's not showing up like that. How many charts do I need to pick out to show that it's not doing what you think it's doing? And everyone's saying the same goddamn thing. Everyone's being Saturnian about it. Nobody's really tapping into their Chiron when they're talking about Chiron. Chiron means moving away from Saturn towards Uranus. Think outside the box. Be different. Be unique, right? But everyone's just parroting everyone else, and it's just a big incestuous, you know, uh, ridiculous Saturnian mob of stupidity. We have to look at the charts to be the final word and authority on what the planets mean, right? Just because a book says wounded healer, don't just be like, and everyone else is like wounded healer, like idiots, right? You know, what most people do is stupid. Literally, like if you want to know what the stupid thing is, look at what the majority of people are doing. So if the majority of people in astrology are doing one thing, that's the stupid thing. Just don't do that. Whatever, like everyone's like, yep, we all agree this is the thing. That's the thing you need to question, right? Maybe they're right, but maybe they're wrong because a lot of times people are wrong about shit. Like big groups of people, even, people burn witches at the stake. So just because everyone's going wounded healer, wounded healer, wounded healer, doesn't mean they're right. They are parroting the mythology, and the mythology is not the actual rock in the fucking sky. That's what we have to realize is these are rocks or sometimes big balls of gas in the sky. And that's the bottom line with astrology. And we just look at, how they're interacting with each other, where they are in your personal chart and all that, right? But they don't follow mythology. Mythology can be a pointer, but it's not necessarily a one-to-one relationship, and we shouldn't be strict about that. Like, there's a more fundamental way to look at Chiron, and that's that it's this undefinable rock in the sky that travels in between Saturn and Uranus, and go with that. There's endless, you can do tremendous things with that alone, and it'll take you much farther than wounded healer archetype, which doesn't really relate most of the time. Right. So anyway, there were a lot more associations that could have been drawn, but I chose to do so many charts to give so many examples that I kind of had to be light on all the associations, and I forgot a lot of them anyway. I think there was one with Sylvester Stallone that could have made with his son, but I just slipped on that. Like he was injured at birth, and he's got like a weird mouth thing, because it's like aspecting his son. But anyway, and that sort of stuff will happen. But yeah, I think we need to be a bit more critical and asking questions instead of just believing old books, which is stupid. Like, you could be an academic astrologer and learn astrology from all the books and just like, be a textbook astrologer yourself and like just be able to rattle off all the facts and all that. But you're going to be Saturnian and you're not going to understand astrology fundamentally from the inside out. And that's what I would encourage people to do, to understand astrology on the inside. And then you don't need to consult a book. You just look at the charts and get your questions answered that way, right? So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. That's it for the Chiron in All the Houses 48 charts, epic, right? I'm definitely gonna have to put chapters in this one to help you navigate it. But hit that like button if you can. Subscribe if you haven't already. Book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And I promise you not to give you a textbook stereotypical reading that's full of, parroted stuff written by old dead astrologers. No, it's going to be original. It's going to be unique. It's going to be my understanding. So anyway, guys, I'm Joe Axelman, the astrologer, formerly known as Mediocre. He's okay. All right, guys, laugh it off, take a victory laugh, win before you win, and all the good stuff. I'll see you again. Bye for now.